Live from the Thomas and Mack Center on the campus of UNLV. You're listening to ESPN Las Vegas.
All right, here we go on a Thursday, day one of the NBA Summer League. Familiar site for us on Cofield and Company because we're out here a lot during the fall and winter with UNLV basketball. But the NBA Summer League is back for the 22nd year. We got a nice view right near the Strip View Pavilion of Mandalay Bay. A lot of cranes. We're going to get into crane talk later on in construction. There is, adjacent to us, there is a nice poster of one of the new arenas that is being proposed here in town, so we'll get into that in a couple of minutes. But big show on the way, lots going on around the NBA. World Cup game just ended, so we'll get you updated on Morocco and France. John Von Tobel is co-hosting today. Brandy from LV Sports Network, our reporter, is here with us as well. So is Mateo. What's up, John?
You have to say it properly. Brandy Flores.
Thank you.
I'm not going to do
Face of the franchise.
Try it. I think you can
Face
do
of the
it.
franchise.
Yeah, try it. Try it.
I thought it was face of the network.
Well, that too. But you got to try to say her name properly.
No.
As we had the conversation.
I'm not
with
Mexican.
Sylvia.
I'm not Mexican American. I'm not Latino. I think it's an insult when we try to do it, when us whites try to do it.
Like we talked about with Sylvia Alvarado over on Comp, right? When she has her taco y taco ads, you just got to say it properly.
People don't know her for that.
I think
you know what they know her for? With the truck you. And you're
That's
like,
right.
What? Wait, what? Did she just curse?
I think it's all about the intention. If you say it because you're trying to
Right.
be proper about it. But honestly, if you're going to try to say any Hispanic last name, Flores is a good starter. If you really want to get into the Spanish, Espanol.
Well, I need to learn Spanish.
Yeah.
So he's that right off the tongue, just like that.
Well, it's natural. Come on now, John. So the World Cup game is done. 2-0. France has moved on against Morocco.
2 what?
2-0.
We're going
Thank
to
you.
do this.
Thank you. Yeah.
There were a lot of offsides calls in the game.
Offside. We've been lecturing Steve. He's got to get all the terminology proper. We're talking about giving the respect to the native language of somebody's last name. You got to give respect to the gate. It's 2-0.
I get it. And as I've told you, the funny thing is I'm the only one here who was actually back in college called the national title game, but I don't remember caring if it was nil or offside. I hope I didn't say offside the whole time. Maybe I just forgot. I'm not sure.
Somebody was listening. God, this guy sucks.
Is that right? Well, but that's what happens. We're going to get into, again, the conversation about the soccer snoots because it's coming back on them now. And I'll start out with Christian Pulisic has been getting just a rash of crap on social media, a rash of crap from former U.S. men's soccer team players, which I saw someone yesterday, like, that's par for the course. And they listed all the times that, different eras got ripped on by the players of previous teams. And I wanted to write back, yeah, that's every sport. It's Charles Barkley's thing. That's what old players do. They become jealous and they piss and moan. But there is a problem to talk about with the U.S. team, and we're going to break it down again. Yesterday we got into the whole economics of it, but the report is in. Pulisic has a bone bruise and a microfracture in his leg. What does that do for you guys when you see CP getting ripped left and right?
Well, I think that although that injury, I'm sure he did try to play on it like he said. However, I have seen a lot of discourse from even former players saying that maybe they kind of made up that injury. Just because of taking the heat off of him. I will say, prior to that, even in the qualifiers and last year, the injury was not really the issue for Christian Pulisic. I mean, although he did take a long break because he wanted to be ready for this World Cup, unless he was battling this injury from the very beginning, which it sounds like he wasn't because he said that they injured it when they were playing against Belgium, he hasn't really been Captain America, the nickname given to him. And I think in the United States, especially with all the other sports that we play, there is a certain standard when we want to be the best of the world. And in soccer, we are just not. And it's by a large margin. And we put up this guy who we want to be Captain America to have that fight and that spirit. Maybe that's not his personality. And maybe he didn't ask for any of it. But if you're going to go out there and be a captain and represent the United States of America, you have to put it literally all out on the pitch.
It's a good one. I would say that I think injuries make it a little bit trickier. I'm always one that is not one to question whether or not a guy is injured and whether or not they could play through said injury. He was injured coming into this. He had the calf issue. We remember that the calves can sometimes lead to other things, and I think the problem is the timing of this. Mm-hmm. The problem is you have this performance by the Americans. He is, much like Brandy, the face of that team. And so you represent the squad. And so when the squad puts forth the effort that it does, you look a little limpy out there, you don't perform very well, you then get injured subsequently, and then afterwards we hear about said injury. That is always going to rub people the wrong way. And the other layer of that is then you get the Carly Lloyds of the world and others jumping on that rest comment that he made, which I think was blown a little out of proportion.
I don't.
Me neither.
I love that she did it.
Same.
No, I'm saying, by the way, she was totally feeling herself because she had a great rant on the broadcast and then went for seconds and did really well. I'm saying I think his comments were taken out of context a bit. But my whole point is all of that together is this mix in which I can understand why somebody would look at this and go, no, dude, like you don't get to come out afterwards and say you've got this microfracture.
You can't be the face of a franchise, and especially when the franchise is repping the country, and be a mope.
Yeah.
And he's a mope.
Yes,
I
would agree with
He's
that.
constantly a mope. And listen, he hasn't played well in international play for a while. So, listen, I hope he gets healthy. I do think it's a legit question. We'll play some audio later on from Landon Donovan, who said, hey, the next time they play and they're on the field, is he going to get booed? Are U.S. fans going to boo him? I don't know. He has some optics issues. So he needs a PR team to get him out there and speak like an adult and be accountable. And it's the whole team. It's USA men's soccer. I was thinking last night, for you guys, what does the U.S. men's soccer team kind of remind you of? Do you have any parallels to like a team, an organization, a certain athlete? Because I have one that's like at a much lower level.
Like the team as a whole.
The team as a whole. It's the organization as a whole. I'll start with this. I've always found USA Soccer, the organization, to be, like I use the word, snooty, right? And I've dealt with them in the past. And I can remember, I have to look back at the year. I remember just dealing with them, trying to get an interview in Nashville, Tennessee, around the UFC event. I had seen that Tim Howard was a big UFC fan. Tim Howard actually played at a high school that I covered some 30 years ago. He was a pretty good basketball player. Well, now he's the U.S. men's national team goalkeeper. He's a guy who's a really good player in the Premier League. And it was like dealing with these people. It's just exclusive club with their noses up in the air. And a lot of it, to me, reminds me of like a really good parochial football team in high school. But they're in the middle of nowhere, and they dominate that area, and they're really good for that area. But, man, they really think they are something. And then when they go to state level or they actually play at a state, and then there's a parochial school that, like, is really good. And, by the way, actually allows people in the organization who don't have money, like they actually have a team that they field that has diversity, and then they get their ass kicked, and you're like, oh, I guess you weren't that good. And for me, the U.S. team carries itself a certain way, and it's like you don't have to be, little sisters of the poor. There can be pride, but you're not good. So be more accessible, please. And it's been going on. I'm telling you, as an organization, it's been going on World Cup after World Cup after World Cup.
See, I don't get that sense only because, and maybe this is because it's always the same tired message after every World Cup failure, which is we're building. We're almost there. We're right on the cusp.
Yeah.
And so I don't.
The other message is you don't know what you're talking about.
Correct.
Well, we might not, but you guys don't either. You're not breaking through. When is the breakthrough moment? It's supposed to be fixed every 4 years, and it doesn't happen.
Well,
so is it personnel? Is it access to more players? This conversation, I think, has exploded the last couple of days. I think it's dynamite that soccer's really expensive to play now and has become this really niche thing for rich kids. Well, if that's the case, we got a problem.
Well, that's a lot of youth sports, I think, at this point, except for football, and that's the only reason for that is because you can't play a club football sport. You just can't. But to John's point, what he was saying, every year we're rebuilding. They knew they were going to host the World Cup this year, years ago. The rebuild was supposed to be for this. They are not going to get a much easier time in the World Cup. Every host country, for those who don't know, I'm sure it was very obvious as Canada, Mexico. Well, shout out Mexico. They actually overperformed, but we're not going to get into that because it's about the USA right now. All three countries had quote-unquote easy groups that as long as they played okay, decently to their own ability, not having to hit it out of the park or anything, they're going to make it out the group stage because that is what they want. USA is not going to get that again. This was the year on our soil to succeed, and they flat out failed. And not only that, if you want to say, well, we just don't have the skill, the best athletes in every other country play soccer, okay, that's fine. There was zero heart in comparison to Mexico. When you watched them, first of all, England had a foot on head towering over these players, and they still put fought their absolute hardest. I did not see that once from Team USA. I have not seen that from Team USA in a really long time. And especially with Christian Pulisic. And going back to what Steve said earlier, because speaking of Landon Donovan and what he was talking about with Christian Pulisic, Landon Donovan himself said that the team that Christian Pulisic has around him has Steve has been saying, very snooty, very protective. They don't want him to be as accessible to the media. They don't want him to do this and this or that. And Landon Donovan himself said, well, I don't know if that's really Christian Pulisic, but it's the people, the organization around him. So something's wrong, but this was our chance, and they just flat out failed.
And it's also, obviously, it's the nature with the way they went down, too. Not only like you talked about, but they looked like buffoons. They looked like they had not played a game of soccer at all, in any way, shape, or form. You see the tentative nature in the box defensively where there's three guys around a single Belgian player and they just let it drop in his lap and he ends up scoring. You see the lapse when you're talking about the goal kick that ultimately leads to a goal the other way. They looked inept. And that's a big part of the problem, too, is you keep saying that we're growing and that we're getting there. And like you have said, and Adam Hill's talked about this was the team that was built up not only because of your home field advantage, but the way the team had been growing in terms of the players they were acquiring. This was going to be one of their best teams that they had put on that soils for a very long time. And that's the way they went down, in a very passive, inept, buffoon type of way that looked awful.
By the way, my reference to that, I was looking up that conversation with Tim Howard. I got the conversation, and he was very nice. It was 17 years ago.
Wow.
They were UFC was in Nashville for it's for a fight night with Condit and Campman, and there was a vibe around the team because they were staying at the same hotel, and it was like anyone who came near them, it was like we were going to attack them. Like, first of all, no one knows who the hell you are in the United States. It's grated at me or on me for a long time, and I don't get it. We're out here at the NBA Summer League, and for the most part, the NBA is welcoming. They want to be here. They're excited to be here. They love Las Vegas. There's all these cool events going down. We're going to tell you more about the events as the day goes along and the week moves along. Brandy's here with us. We've got John Von Tobel, who's really good on the NBA as well, of course, from VSiN. What's the biggest story going into the Summer League? Is it the Summer League itself and some of the stars who may emerge? Is it the fact that NBA expansion is now moving to the forefront again because of the group yesterday, the Las Vegas Jacks? Or is LeBron still the biggest thing? Because he hasn't decided it. Of those three, what's the biggest?
I don't think it's LeBron. I think a lot of people are getting tired of it, and we're just waiting for a decision, so everybody's just kind of whatever, that's fine. Out here locally, I do think it's probably the growing sense of expansion, or at least new names and new organizations, groups, I should say, putting their hat in the ring and saying, hey, we want to be a part of this. Bill Foley kind of getting the at least forward nature of that getting started. The basketball nerd in me says, these guys are freaking awesome, and every single one of these players is going to be great to watch. But I do think locally you're probably a little bit more excited because what has this been the whole time? We've talked to Albert Hall about this. We've talked about this with a lot of different NBA folks. This has kind of been the testing ground for a really long time. This has been NBA's, summer vacation. Everybody comes out here. We like being out here. The Summer League has kind of been that, and the ability to show what the NBA can get in terms of support. And now that it actually might happen for real, I think for sure it's expansion.
Yeah, and this is my first Summer League here. We got here? I got here at 2 o'clock. It is packed. Looking up and down the concourse, the parking lot is completely packed here at UNLV Thomas and Mack Center, excuse me. And it's just the vibe of, I think, a lot of young kids being here. I think they're also excited to have their own NBA team where they can actually pick and choose and cheer on for the rest of their lives as long as they live here. So, and then on top of that, you mentioned seeing the future stars of the NBA.
Mm-hmm. I think you have to be excited because this has always just been our thing. And look, as you know, it's a basketball town. There's a lot of support. When UNLV was in its heyday, everybody loves hoops. So you get this little taste of it during the summer once the season's over. But the fact that in, 2026, in 2 years, we might be watching a Vegas Jacks rookie play on this floor as we get ready for the next season. It did it on purpose. But that I think is something that is really tantalizing for a lot of folks out here.
We'll come back and talk about that name. We'll talk about that ownership group and also get into the fact that, reality is we could have a team here in a couple of years. And I know the Summer League people are big on pitching like, hey, this is part of the tryout. Now, I don't think we're going to have record low attendance and Silver's going to be like, sucks, they're out. I don't think that's going to be the case. We need to show out well. I think we will. If you don't have tickets, make sure you grab your tickets at UNLVtickets.com. This thing goes all the way through July 19th.
Live from the Thomas and Mack Center on the campus of UNLV, you're listening to ESPN Las Vegas.
Don't forget, every day of this month, we're giving out a keyword of the day for the Lotus Summer of Fun, celebrating America 250. We're giving away a trip each week. This week's trip is to New York. If you don't want to go to New York, you can take the cash. The contest is brought to you by Terrible's Bay Law Injury Attorneys and, of course, ESPN Las Vegas. Keyword of the day that you need to text in to 702-364-1100 is swim. Swim. 702-364-1100. Text in swim, and you're in the running for this week's trip, which is to New York City. JVT is here. Las Vegas Sports Network reporter Brandy Flores is here as well.
That was zesty.
What was?
The way you said her last name.
What do you mean?
You put a little flair on
You're
it.
very observant.
That's right.
Like a hawk over there.
Dude, I'm jazzed up. I love it.
You are jazzed up.
I love this. As I said, I'm an energy chameleon, and the energy is off the charts today.
I tried to go low energy because you yelled at me the last couple of times. Just basically shut the hell up because I was so fired up going into the show.
Well, you don't let me
Wow.
talk sometimes.
I don't. I wasn't really talking today because I was trying to gather my thoughts before this one. Years past, the most hyped summer league going in was what? Can you remember which year?
Probably, I don't know what year, but I would assume Zion is probably up there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, I thought it was the Lonzo Ball year because LeVar was there too.
Yeah.
There were so many fans with the.
You can't look at that situation properly, though.
I can't.
You love the balls too
I
much.
love the ball family.
I think
The
Zion
family's
was.
getting broken up. Did you hear about that?
No, what's going on?
The LeVar and his wife are getting divorced.
You knew this. I brought this up to you
Oh, last week.
after everything you did for her.
Yep.
You know,
Everything she did for him.
I think I did a typical Cofield, and I just moved on to another thought.
You did.
Because I thought you were talking about his health issues.
No, he's getting divorced.
I didn't know that.
She nursed him back to health, and now he's divorcing her.
Well, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Well, as I've said on the air, and I'll repeat it again, the one time we got to interview LeVar Ball, I did tell him after the interview that I wish he was my dad.
What did he say?
Which he kind of laughed. So I made a call to my father, who can't hear, so it didn't matter.
It's actually he's
My dad was
actually-
like, "Oh, what? Yeah, okay."
He's actually legally Steve Ball, but because of branding,
We can't get rid of Cofield and
Yeah,
Company. It's what a great name it is.
right? Ball and Company doesn't work.
Yeah.
So this year it doesn't have the Ball family. It doesn't have a Zion. I mean, hell, if you wanted to go back, Steph played in this league. But at the time, Steph wasn't Steph.
Yep.
Who's the guy in this league? Or is it just kind of the whole rookie class?
I think it's the whole rookie class, but the benefit is, for those who don't know, there are actually multiple summer leagues. So we've seen Salt Lake City when we have seen them play in the California Classic. So we've seen a couple of these guys play already. And I, for one, would say that right now, because he has not played, but his two counterparts at the top have, I think everybody's really looking forward to watching Darren Peterson out here. They obviously want to see A.J. Debonsa play him in the nightcap tonight, or the second to last game. But also, Carlos Boozer's son looks really good. Cam Boozer, he looks fantastic. So I think if you're like a hardcore fan, you've been paying attention to the California Classic and the Salt Lake Summer Leagues, I think a lot of people are really excited for the class as a whole, but I think a lot of people are looking forward to those two guys playing each other and playing just in general.
I'm excited for the first ever Mexican-born draft pick in the first round, Karim Lopez. Mm-hmm. See, Lopez, you don't see like the Z, it's like almost like an S. We're going to teach Steve Spanish. One hit at a time. I'm excited to see him. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of Mexicans in this area who are going to come just to watch him play.
Sure.
And that's really great just for Summer League in general, for ticket sales, for UNLV. And so I'm very, very excited to see him play, personally. Because they're making us bigger.
Sure. Well, they're making us bigger. They need that in the England game. But like to Brandy's point, though, too, because he plays for the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies have a really young and interesting team, and it speaks to the benefit of the Summer League in general. After this season you just had, if you're Memphis, you stunk, Jaw's gone, there's no hope. A month later, you've got Cam Boozer, you've got Karim Lopez, who looks like he's going to be really freaking good and fits perfectly with that team, and they've all of a sudden just rebuilt this young core like that, and you've got some excitement, and you get to watch them for the first time here before the season actually starts.
Cam's dad did 16-9 over like 12 years in the NBA. Is Cam going to be better than that?
Yeah, because he's also going to average like 5 or 6 assists.
Really? You think he's like a point forward?
Yeah,
he's a legit stretch guy.
I think he is. I think he is absolutely fantastic. There's a reason, too, why
didn't he go number one?
I think there's a couple of reasons. I think first off, it's what you like, right? The Wizards have their own thoughts, their flavors, what they want. It's hard to turn down a 6'8", 6 foot, like 6'8.5", guard-ish type player who can create his own shot. You really need that in the NBA. And then, of course, you get Darren Peterson, who can be a ball-handling 6'7" point guard who I think could eventually turn into Cade Cunningham or Luka Doncic in the sense of just being a do-it-all type of guy for you that's going to lead your offense. The other day, he had 11 assists, if I remember correctly, in the Salt Lake City Summer League, somewhere in there. So he looks like he can be the real deal at the one spot. So I think that's why, right? Ball-handling guards are generally going to be, I think, more impactful for your team. But the analytics folks really love Boozer and what he can do in terms of stuff in the stat sheet and what he can do at all three levels.
Coming up, I mentioned Brandy's here. Brandy covers the Aces. We got to get the inside dope on what happened with Chennedy Carter. She went from one of the favorites to be a comeback player of the year, the sixth woman of the year, to she is gone. She got waived. She got cut. And I still don't understand what the transaction was all about.
Now back to ESPN Las Vegas, broadcasting from inside the Thomas and Mack.
So much to get to. I was just reading more notes on the guy that I say we absolutely cannot have someone like this on our NBA team in the future, Tom Dundon. We'll get to Dundon and the Stanley Cup. More notes on that. That's incredible. JVT is here. We're on the concourse of the Thomas and Mack. Brandy has a couple more minutes with us. So you cover the Aces. Let's continue to talk basketball. Chennedy Carter is gone. Why?
Well, I think it was kind of like a culmination of a lot of different things. Of course, she started out the year great. Steve, you and I were at the Aces media day before the season started. Everyone was excited about her. She seemed to have a different kind of demeanor to where she said, I want to be part of this team, which is key. The season starts, she's coming off the bench, doing fantastic. Everybody's saying she's going to be sixth woman player of the year, doing great. Then all of a sudden she gets injured. Even during her injury, she was on the sidelines with her team on the bench at every game. Then she comes over with an illness. Before she comes back, she plays a couple games. She has some sort of illness. And then at that point, she was not with her team. So that was the games. John, you and I went to those. And that was one thing that I noticed because I specifically looked for her. And she wasn't there. Then
I got to add real quick. Well, she was in the building because I saw her. They have chapel service, and she was there. So she was in the building at least, but she was not on the sidelines.
And I want to bring up the Callie Finn over at USA Today, who I believe she was with the Vegas Review Journal, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. She did a great article kind of timelining everything. One thing that stuck out to me, which is like maybe the beginning of the end for Chennedy Carter with the Aces, was, and I'm going to read straight from her article. She said, her glum demeanor and abrupt exit came from a press conference after the Aces beat the Dream 85-84 down to the wire game. This was May 17th, so before her quote-unquote illness. That was the first moment that raised eyebrows. It was Carter's third 20-point game in 5 outings, but she wasn't on the court to close the fourth quarter. And Chelsea Gray got the winning jumper, right? This is what Chennedy Carter said, quote, obviously I want to help the team close in the fourth quarter if possible. I'm still going through it. I'm a little bit disappointed, happy we won. The Aces from the beginning and have been since even before she got here, an established franchise. They know how to win. They know the recipe. So does Becky Hammon, who, by the way, Becky Hammon was always excited to have her here despite everything that happened in her past, willing to overlook all of that. But Chennedy Carter needed to come in and be a part of the team. She has the skill to maybe be a star somewhere. She has not yet proven that, and several times. This was kind of her one chance to prove that she can be a part of a team and not be the star of the team, which I'm not sure where her thought process was for that. Again, we don't know. We are just kind of speculating. However, to say something like that after your team wins, that shouldn't matter. The goal is to win. And in a team sport, the goal is to win. And it sounds like she wasn't down for that. She wanted the star. She wanted all of that, which she could have gotten. I mean, she's not going to be Asia Wilson. She's not going to take over Chelsea Gray. None of that. Not even Jackie Young. But the fact that she could have solidified herself on this roster as a very, very, very important player coming off the bench, which could have probably got her an all-star nod. She fumbled the bag in that sense because there's no way that she was going to come in and demand just more playing time, which it sounds like what's happened. Becky Hammon's going to speak for the first time after she got waived at 5 o'clock today, so I'll definitely have more. Be sure to check on ESPN socials for that. But it's just kind of a sad situation because I feel like this was all her own doing.
I mean, I can't really speak to much. I haven't been around the team that much, but I will say, to your point, the talent was there, at least in terms of her fit and her impact. The weird part, too, is, I mean, look, she's got this history now. I mean, she's going from spot to spot to spot, despite showing that there is some production there. So this clearly is at her feet. Whatever is happening, it is on her to fix whatever issues are going on. And you see this all the time in different facets, whether it's art or whether it's sport. Sometimes people just can't get out of their own way. And it's actually, to an extent, now tragic is strong, but it is to an extent somewhat tragic because you could have been part of this. And by the way, the Aces, I think they need her. I think this is a flawed Aces group. They're not very good defensively. I think they've got some issues on that end. And look, in the WNBA, they're one of the top 3 teams. I think they're 3. They're going to be competitive for a championship. I think they need all hands on deck once they get to that postseason, especially if the Valkyries continue to do what they're doing. And for her to not only be willing to sacrifice her role and leave like this, but for the Aces to be willing to say, see you later, that's, I think, a very big deal.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more that went on than even Callie wrote about, but that's the WNBA, unfortunately. I thought her demeanor was weird at Media Day. I didn't think she was happy. She seemed kind of glum. You mentioned you're an energy chameleon. She is an energy vampire. Mm-hmm. You know who she reminds me of? At a much lower level is Devontae Adams, because I don't think Devontae Adams is really that happy winning. He's happy if he gets 14 targets and 9 catches. You saw it on that reality show.
Sure.
Right? He sucks the energy out of the room. And John Gruden's the one who came up with Energy Vampire. He wasn't talking about, because he wasn't around when Devontae Adams. I'm trying to think who it was. It wasn't Derek Carr, but it was. I'll remember at some point. But there are just players who, no matter what they do, especially in basketball, all they want to do is score. Well, if you don't want to play defense and you don't want to be a good teammate and at least be upbeat a little bit, then they don't want you around. And this was the time now. Deadline was coming up to fully guarantee the contract. So I think it's a great move by the Aces, and I think it's going to prove out to be the correct move, because I don't think anyone else is picking her.
I mean, she's good enough, so we'll if a team is desperate enough, missing that one piece.
What bad team is going to risk bringing her in to ruin chemistry further? What team that has good young players?
The Chicago Sky.
Well, that's the problem. It didn't work, right? I mean, that's the other thing. This league's amazing. People get mad that the casual media covers the drama in the league, but the league presents the drama all the time. Yeah. Skylar Diggins isn't happy now. Now she's complaining.
Well, I think that's more of like an issue with that franchise in particular versus like a player. But I mean,
well, funny enough, Tyler Marsh came from the Aces, and I don't think he's a terrible coach, but he can't straighten things out. They got rid of Angel Reese, and they still haven't straightened it out. Listen, the Aces are a great organization. They are very VGK-like because none of this came out. So I really admire them that they kept it under wraps. It didn't turn into drama. The only little bit of drama was the stuff up on social media, the leash thing. I think they made the right move, but I don't have much hope. And I feel bad saying this because she's an amazing talent. I don't have much hope that Chennedy Carter is going to get it anytime soon.
Well, it's funny that you say at the media day how she was kind of glum. I think that I didn't see that, because when she did answer, I think that's maybe her personality. She's just not an excited personality. Also, you got to remember that was her first ever press conference as a member of a WNBA
I didn't think
team.
anyone else had much to say at that media day. I'll tell you, my recollection of the media day was I was like, is no one going to cover the biggest story here? A lady who was banned from the league, essentially, who played in China last year, is an amazing talent. They are taking a chance on this person. I was going to call her miscreant. I don't know what she's like away from the court, but they're taking a chance, and like no one thought it was a story. I'm like, this is a big freaking story. Now, they didn't take the risk and then ruin the organization. That's why they're great. That's why they're smart.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think too, especially like you mentioned, like the Chicago Sky. Sometimes you can't just fix or put a Band-Aid over a franchise that is completely broken. Anybody who's come from the Chicago.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Brandy. Not to catch up. Diggins has done this everywhere. Like, I wanted to take Diggins' side with Diana Taurasi. Diana Taurasi wanted to punch her in the face. Like, there was a whole thing down there. There was a thing in Seattle. It's just like, and this isn't a female thing, because guys do this too in basketball. There are great basketball players who have had nothing careers compared to what they should have, who can fill the basket, but that's not what it's all about.
Well, I think when you're talking franchises, I wasn't talking about Skylar Diggins in particular. There's a lot of issues within the Chicago franchise in general. Players who have come from there, when they do the polls and they ask players, that there is a lot of big issues amongst that franchise, and the Aces have it figured out, because from top to bottom, everything is run like a smooth machine, and that's why they're so successful.
Now back to ESPN Las Vegas, broadcasting from inside the Thomas and Mack.
Yeah, rolling out at the NBA Summer League Day 1. Get your tickets, unlvtickets.com. cool displays out here. Got a poster board of that Diamond Arena. We'll have to get into that. I drove by the site a little while ago, so we'll talk about what that looks like up on LV Boulevard across from Mandalay Bay. Brandy Flores just finished with us. Like she said, she'll be covering the Summer League the entire 10 days, putting posts up at LV Sports Network and ESPN Las Vegas on all the socials. JVT is here. Exavier Pope is in Chicago. We generally get a chance to talk a little basketball and other stuff. I think he's going to be my life coach. I have some health questions for EP in a little bit. What's going on, buddy?
What's going on? I just talked to my life coach today, so you get some great advice.
Good. I need it. Maybe Stephen A. does. I wanted to go back one more time on some of the feedback that Stephen A. got on the Lakers and the two white thing. And I last time we talked, he hadn't gone on Fox yet, but he went on with Will Cain and sort of doubled down. Will Cain came back and said, "Hey, what would happen if he had made the same comments as a white about black quarterbacks in the NFL not being able to win the Super Bowl?" What's the conclusion out of this whole thing with Stephen A? Do we believe that he believes in what he's saying, or do we have to just look at everything through the prism that it's all a bit and he doesn't care?
It's all a bit and he doesn't care. It's that simple. It's Stephen A. could have actually came on the side that Will Cain came on, and he would have defended it the exact same way. It's Stephen A.'s world. He has a set of opinions and thoughts that he believes in, that it doesn't matter if it's unpopular. It doesn't matter if it's ridiculous. As long as it's what Stephen A. believes, feels, thinks, that's law for Stephen A. Yep. You don't really see Stephen A. go back and say, "Hey, I was wrong about this." If he does, he'll, the whole thing with Jasmine Crockett, he'll turn around and still make it about him not necessarily being wrong. And so he hasn't seen any significant economic or career issues in terms of saying things that are harmful. So I think that when it comes to Stephen A., he is almost Teflon. People just say that Stephen A. Barkley achieved that state before he did. There's just certain personalities, no matter what they say, no matter how crazy, egregious, it's just someone that points to say, "Oh, that's just this person," just like the President of the United States right now. It's just certain brands that seem to be untouchable in the things they're able to say and do.
It's funny. I saw someone talk about the fact that Stephen A. had made these comments, that it might be something as a favor to LeBron and Rich Paul, that Stephen A. was looking to get back in the good favor, and they put it this way, that Stephen A. was looking to get invited back to the cookout.
I don't believe that at all. I think that Stephen, I just think that he was just, there's just as many ridiculous takes that Stephen A. has. Yeah. There's also a bunch of ridiculous takes in general.
Yeah. Well, that's what's happening now with social media, right? A lot of people, it's basically their thing. They got to come up with something new every week. We probably should be doing that. So speaking of cookouts, clunky transition, but I know you were talking recently about baked beans, and I love baked beans. Yeah. We've actually had some discussions about baked beans, some different recipes, but the thing that you brought up was that you couldn't remember how to make your foster mom's baked beans until you remembered the smell, and then it's kind of that whole thing about how food, and we're going to get to movies, but how food sometimes can be nostalgic.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, and it's also interesting how the sense of smell is so powerful, is that I was trying to recreate it just in general. Like, okay, well, maybe she put this in and maybe she put that. I was guessing. And then one day I just thought about how it smelled coming out of the oven. And right away, I'm thinking about it right now. The whole scene comes into play. I knew exactly what to put in. I remember watching her, and then I remember what ingredients were used. And then I'm as this proponent of putting beer in my baked beans. And I'm going to say right now, one of the best decisions I've ever made is to put beer in baked beans.
So on the nostalgia thing, I'm guessing, I know the people who do the show with me look at me sometimes when I mention the TV shows and movies I watch, because I watch a lot of old stuff, and I also watch a lot of it with an eye on, like, hey, that was what it was like then and what it meant, and there's a lot of cultural stuff. What's the show I always bring up? Like, a good one is people will look back and go, back in my day, I'd watch Gunsmoke, and they didn't have all these woke messages. And I watch Gunsmoke, and I'm like, these writers are unbelievable. They're covering stories and issues of the day and race and religion. But I think, I don't know if people didn't process it. You watched a movie recently, which is one of my favorite movies, and you noticed that it was much different watching Rocky IV now than when you first watched it.
Yeah, because when Rocky IV was out, remember it was the whole Cold War. And so we as Americans were, we had to do the fire drills, the emergency drill, the disaster drills from a nuclear holocaust. And so we were all pro-USA in that time. And you were able to see how the politics were impacted by that time, a lot of pro-USA messaging at the time. But really what I looked at it, I just saw a black man who was a showboat, who didn't practically train for the fight, who then he's singing and dancing, and then the guy who trained kills him. And then another guy, white guy, who's Rocky, he winds up saving the day. And this is what America is supposed to be like. And I just think that it showed a really terrible side of how athletes, black athletes, really have been seen for many years in sports, being showboats, not being in certain stereotypes. And it hit me weird when I was a kid. It hits me even more weird now.
So I have to add to this really quickly, and I will say that, Exavier, I watched Rocky for the first time, the first one, probably like 3 or 4 years ago. That movie sucked. It was boring, and also he was a troubling character. He harassed what's-her-face, Adrian, at the pet shop every day until she agreed in pat of pity to be with him. She's a victim of Stockholm Syndrome. That little girl that he harasses in the alley, and he calls her, I think, a lady of the night, to use the proper term. He sucked. The character was terrible, but to your point, everybody who's like over 60 is like, he's one of the greatest rooting characters ever. I thought he was terrible.
Yeah, I think that sometimes you can look at it. That's a great. I mean, wow! I wasn't expecting that. That was excellent, because there are a lot of different movies we can go back and look and say, "Oh, wait a minute, if that was now, that would be some unacceptable behavior." That's him on an individual level, but I think that what Apollo Creed representing something that was just beyond just the character, but black athletes in general and how they're perceived and how. And then, so I thought that was a bigger issue that I had.
This is great too. So let's think about this. Exavier Pope was with us. We're at the NBA Summer League. There is, I'm not going to say, well, the qualities you're putting on from this movie on some black athletes, I think people did with Darren Peterson, who was a number 2 pick in this draft. And there's a lot of questions about Darren Peterson because he didn't play a lot. He was hurt, all the mystery illnesses, like is his hammy really jacked up? There's some pressure on him. And by the way, EP, I will point out, though, that a lot of the people who are smashing Darren Peterson as kind of being lazy and unprepared and not driven were former players in the NBA who are also African-American.
That's actually another great point, though. I think that there's something to be said about how other older players feel about younger generational players, and they're always criticizing the game, and they're also always criticizing the benefits they have, NIL, being able to these marketing deals, being able to make more money, and not, in their opinion, be as talented as some of them once were, or the whole thing against analytics and the issue about that. So I think that it's still also a rift, particularly in the NBA more than any other sport, between how older athletes once saw the game, the toughness, and then the changing of how the game is played to now. We saw some of that criticism on Wemby in the finals.
Yep. I think there was actually the other day, there was a old highlight, well, you could call it a highlight clip. I believe it was of Joe Johnson. I can't remember who it was. But it was just putting up mid-range jumpers, and they're all just clanking back iron. It was awful. It was just going back to like old basketball. But all right, so what I'm curious, because I think with Steve, we were talking about this, Exavier. I kind of think that the Summer League is also this weird representation of like the future and growth and excitement, because I brought up the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are a team that if you watched them and you're a fan, your season was awful. 3 weeks later, you've got Cam Boozer, you've got a bunch of young guys that are exciting, and they're going to be fantastic. This is also a big moment of hope. Like, what fascinates you about the growth of this league overall? Because this is what this league represents in Summer League.
Well, Summer League, I think, is really, really great now, even more than before, because it's more content. It's more things that you could watch on television, not necessarily in terms of what it does for the teams themselves, because you're going to watch the teams compete. Some teams are going to win, some teams are going to lose. You just care about, it extends the amount of things that you can put a commercial to that can fatten the contract of the sport. And so, that's what's made the WNBA a popular league now when it wasn't before. It was the content. And I do with the more things you can put a camera around and record, the more valuable leagues become, the more valuable contracts become for players, and the more valuable the sport becomes.
Exavier Pope's up on Cofield and Company, ESPN Las Vegas. Moving on to the WNBA, and we were just talking about hot take, hot shots, like Stephen A. Smith. They got to come up with something, troll every week. It feels like there are politicians that want to be performative and kind of, stay away from actually doing things and having people concentrate on real issues. Did you see this group of lawmakers who have called on the WNBA to look into, let's investigate what's going on here with the physicality in the league, pertaining to Caitlin Clark, though?
Yeah, I think that's absurd, but we see absurd bills that are introduced every year in Congress. I think we don't really talk enough about the absurd things that are proposed by some of our government officials. And so this is just one of those things. It just happens to be sports related. We had other issues involved with NIL and how contracts are structured in various sports. So there's always going to be a lawmaker that is seeking to win political points by their social standpoint. But it's really weird that you have people who could care less about women at all. How about you focus on the autonomy of rights for women to be able to control their own bodies? Instead, you're focusing on these other issues. I think it's ridiculous.
Like you said, it happens everywhere. We have someone running for treasurer in Nevada, and one of his biggest talking points is making sure that men aren't playing girl sports. What does that have to do with being the treasurer? But I know he's trying to get votes from certain people. Yeah. It's crazy. Okay, so life advice. Here we go. You were talking about getting better sleep of late, but this looks like a laundry list of drugs. What's this going to cost us to sleep well? What's going on here?
Well, how this originated, though, was I was looking for ways. I teach hot yoga at night in the evening, looking for ways to be able to trim stubborn belly fat because I work out all the time. Like, what's going on? So piece by piece, I've been able to put ways together to be able to reduce the amount of cortisol that's in my body at night and help me calm down, and also get me to sleep through the night. And so I had a list of things I've read about: magnesium glycinate, citrate, ashwagandha, L-theanine, and this pro-thepidine serine. And this combo has really helped me out a lot. And now, individual results may vary, but I saw within a month's time, I had a colonoscopy, we talked about in the show. When I did it at the time, I did a colonoscopy prep, and I was just looking for the same way that I was emptied out to feel that way on a regular basis. And this has helped me to do that, in addition to increasing my fiber intake. So these are things for me that's helped me to feel lighter in my body, to be able to carry less weight.
Tease ahead to next week. We'll table it for now, but we're going to talk about Cofield's pooping. Okay. We'll have to get into that one. John, are your belly fat? Are you down with this? As you lose weight?
Yeah, I mean, what do you mean if I lose weight? What are you talking about?
We're saying you're losing weight. You're down like 60 pounds.
Exavier, I think at some point I would like Steve to send you a picture of my downward dog, and so you can judge how good I am.
Why do I have to send it? You send it.
Why is that talk after pooping asking to send that, though?
I know. Because he wanted to get away from that. He's in his 30s. He doesn't understand.
I do. I'm in a high-protein diet. Sometimes it's a little hard, but, we also just don't have to, talk about my bowel movements. But if we really want to.
Well,
getting enough protein, guys, is like a full-time job, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you what. I just discovered, is it kefir yogurt? Is that what it is? I'm going to try this.
There we go.
Try everything you can. Get it. You need it. We need it. But it's like a full-time job here.
Last 15 seconds, I'm going to say I was very proud of Carly Lloyd for stepping up and going after Christian Pulisic. Exavier knows that Carly Lloyd, of course, played collegiate soccer at Rutgers, so very well-educated young lady. And she delivered the message. You're rooting for Holland, aren't you? We got 10 seconds.
What you just basically said, the guy...
I'm sorry. You're rooting for Norway.
That guy. What you said? That guy's amazing. He's a cyborg. Speaking of Rocky IV, he looks like Ivan Drago.
DP, we'll see you, buddy. Love you.
Love you guys.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas and ESPN Reno.
This hour every day is brought to you by Battleborn Injury Lawyers. 766-1400 is the call from anywhere in the state of Nevada number. We are right next to the Strip View Pavilion at Thomas & Mack NBA Summer League. One game in the books. We have some finals yet?
Yeah, I got 2 games in the books. Minnesota 105, New Orleans 92. How about this? A great performance from one Kobe Buffkin, about a third, fourth-year guard, originally drafted by the Hawks. In 32 minutes, my man goes 8 of 16 from the floor, 5 of 9 from three-point range, drops 30 over at the Cox Pavilion in a loss.
John Von Tobel, Cofield, like I said, NBA Summer League.
There was another game, too. The Hawks won by like 28 points over the San Antonio Spurs.
Okay.
My Hawks.
Are they?
They are for the next 10 days.
Oh, that's right. You bet them?
25-1, win the whole shebang. Now, last year, for those who don't remember, obviously you do, the annals of history when it comes to the Summer League champions, well etched. And Hawks went undefeated, but missed out on the playoffs because 4 other teams went undefeated as well. That was tough.
How much do you bet? I don't mean money.
Hundreds of
how
millions.
active are you for the NBA Summer League?
Game to game, not much, because it's just hard. You have to evaluate these teams. If you get information, so one of my favorite stories to tell is there was a Pistons-Raptors Summer League game one year, and I was sitting in the stands, and the Pistons that year had your guy, James Wiseman, who I know you love. They had like Jaden Ivey on the roster. Asar Thompson's rookie year, I believe, was his first Summer League. And they were a really highly power-rated Summer League team because you got a lot of talent on there. And they were playing the Raptors. They're like 6.5, 7-point favorites. And I'm sitting in the stands watching them warm up, and I'm like, hey, like Wiseman, Thompson, Ivy, none of them are warming up. In fact, none of them are even on the bench.
Oh, boy.
But the market didn't know. So, put a little bit on the Toronto Raptors and made out like a bandit.
There you go. You can come out here and you have the inside scoop up on William Hill. Download the William Hill mobile app now, and you can get involved in the NBA Summer League, more World Cup betting action, and, of course, UFC 329, which is going to be a focus this hour, is also up. Latest numbers on William Hill for the biggest fights on UFC 329. Paddy Pimblett is a dog against St. Denis as Pimblett's bringing plus 125 back. You can do the Paddy the Daddy parlay boost, the notorious parlay boost, and individually Conor McGregor is a pretty sizable dog as Max Holloway is a favorite at minus 220. Big 4-time.
Battleborn Injury Lawyers presents The Big 4 at 4. Number 4.
Should I be an internet troll and go at a couple of Raleigh-Durham radio hosts who called me a troll because I was going so hard at Tom Dundon, the Canes owner? Because I told you, and now you're seeing it, dumbasses. You don't, by the way, just because your local team is doing well doesn't mean you have to swallow your pride or your tongue or hold your tongue and not talk about the owner. I mean, maybe their access would be limited. I don't know. But all I did for 2 weeks was tell you, Tom Dundon ain't a great guy. The Evil Empire is not VGK. It's Tom Dundon who owns the Canes. I tried to tell you repeatedly, he also owns the Blazers. Watch what's going to happen with the Blazers. They've been a mess for a couple of weeks. They wound up, going the cheapest possible route and a weird contract for their head coach. And now what has Tom Dundon done to Lord Stanley's Cup?
What are you talking about? He's done the perfectly normal thing that everybody should do, which is before any single player is named, he etched not only his name, but those of every single one of his family members' names upon Stanley's Cup, including a child who is currently in preschool, I believe. I am amazed, and to your point,
7 Dundons on the cup ahead of anyone in the organization, including the guy who was trying to back in that whole rant, and that was Rod Brindamore.
Rod the Bod.
Rod the Pod's making $2 million, while Bruce Cassidy's making $4.5 to sit out.
I'm going to tell you this right now, because this is what bothers me. To your point about stick to your guns, all these hockey purists, all of these nerds that were so gatekeepy about their damn sport, and all of these celebrations and normal things you're supposed to do, the tradition around the Stanley Cup final, you should be pissed. This is insane that he would actually do this. And I'm not a hockey guy. I've made fun of all of you for a long time, and I've won that battle. But this is absolutely insane that he would do this. And to your point, too, think of all the other things he's done to your team. Rod the Bod, underpaid. If you were going to stray from the norm of how you etch names into the Stanley Cup, it should be trainers. It should be staff members. It should be people that were part of the team, not your family and your stupid child. Children. And yes, I'm still talking about the preschooler too. I know there's adults on there as well.
You do know the league has to approve this too, so they laid down for this Dundon guy, this private equity guy. They have to approve him putting 14 Dundons on the cup before any of the players, coaches, organization members. There you go, private equity at its worst. Number 3.
Number 3.
You did a great job. Great resource. Putting up all the rosters for the NBA Summer League up on Twitter, and I don't know if you put it anywhere else.
Did you like that?
Yeah.
I'm a Summer League nerd, tell you.
That was great. I know you love the Summer League, but you also took up the angle of anyone who's got some ties to UNLV, and there's some rosters here that are dotted with former Runnin' Rebels.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned one of the finals that we just talked about. The Atlanta Hawks beat up on the San Antonio Spurs. On that Hawks team is one Keyshawn Gilbert. Played 20 minutes today, had 10 points, put up 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He had a pretty good stat line coming off the bench for Atlanta today. So, and that's actually he's one of the reasons why I like the Hawks is him, Kingston Fleming's pretty good defensive backcourt. You also have on there Zubi Ejiofor coming out of St. John. You got a bunch of guys that have good defensive ceilings. But I was excited to see Gilbert. I wanted to see how he's grown. He's had a year out of college. We haven't really seen him that much, at least stateside. And among him, there's a lot of other guys that are going to be on some of these rosters. Timberwolves played earlier today. They've got Donovan Williams on the roster, so you're going to be able to see him if you come out here to Summer League, if you're pretty big on what his future is going to look like. I don't believe, let's see, he did 2 poorly. Yeah, he had 12 points, 5 of 10 shooting, had a rebound, no assists, so he gave you some scoring output. Others, I got to tell you, David Muoka is going to be a pretty interesting name that you're going to see out here at the Summer League as well, because we've talked a lot about Muoka's struggles as like a true center, especially around the rim, and he was a DNP today, so I don't know if you're really going to get him, but Muoka would be a good guy to see at least at some point. He's going to get about 5 games, you would think, unless the Spurs go on to win the championship. And then the one that I think we were all most excited about, Keyshawn Hall's playing for the Miami Heat. That dude, I will never forget his first year here, and that was the year I was traveling a little bit more with the team and helping you guys out, and I mean this lovingly, and as a man who is one, but a pudgy youngster who looked kind of uncomfortable. You heard that he wasn't really comfortable with the setting in terms of being away from home, the arduous path he took through college basketball, but improving at almost every single level, and now here he is with a shot to make a team and potentially with, as much as I hate to say it, an organization that has a really good track record of developing guys. I'm really excited to see
I hope he turns out to be a longtime pro, because his college story I think is amazing, and he's the poster child for why NIL is cool.
Yes.
Because he moved up. I would argue that he moved laterally when he went to George Mason, but he moved up each year and got a bigger payday and took advantage of the system. You sent me these rosters, and you asked me, hey, look through it for any other UNLV connections. I didn't have a chance to do that. I did notice, because I will stretch UNLV connections out to this level.
That's why I asked you.
Yeah. Because, well, if you know that when I do the scoreboard for UNLV games at halftime, I remember everyone who's played, who's still active. Because sometimes you'll have a guy who's like 7 years later, like, oh, that guy was, he redshirted here at UNLV. One of the guys who was a verbal commit at UNLV is Arthur Kaluma, who also was very well traveled.
How about that? Yeah.
I think he was the Menzies commit, and then that class fell apart. But he's on the Lakers roster.
Okay.
And he turned out to be a pretty good college player, and I think he's got a pro game at 6'6", 6'7". He can do a little everything.
Okay. I'll have to watch him. I forgot about Kaluma. And like I said, there's a ton of names. If you sift through them, you go to my Twitter account, MeJVT, all the rosters are up there. But this is the part, and I think Hall is kind of the cherry on top, or the actual guy that you want to watch, only because he's got the highest upside, but 2, I think that he is a really good story. I've said that for years now, and I cannot wait to see how he develops.
Number 2.
Kawhi Leonard to the Raptors. Wait, not done yet. It's been weeks. What's going on here?
Okay, so I actually like this, and I figured you would kind of like this too. So we get the news today that the Kawhi Leonard trade to the Raptors has been put on hold as they await the results of the NBA investigation. I think it is important the way that this is being worded, because there's a lot of people that are saying the trade can't continue until the investigation is complete. No. The Raptors have said, wait, we found out that we're going to have to take on whatever punishment Kawhi takes. So if he's suspended for 50 games and he's suspended for 50 games, we have to deal with that. We're not going to do it until we find out what's going on with this investigation. So in other words, hey, Adam, can we figure out what we're going to do here? Can you fine and or suspend or do something? Because we're not going to trade for it. And the Clippers, on the other hand, too, released a big statement, because the Clippers get screwed as well. Because Clippers have to understand what their roster is going to look like. Is Brandon Ingram going to be on the team? Is Grady Dick going to be on the team? What are we doing? What draft assets do we have? So both teams have come out and said, essentially, put the ball in Adam Silver's lap. It's your turn, man. You're going to have your press conference next week like you do every year here at the Summer League. You've been sitting on this for 11 months now. We need a decision on what this investigation is going to bring up so we can make this deal or not.
So explain why Kawhi Leonard's involvement would warrant a suspension.
Well, it's the deal with Aspiration, the now defunct company, where the owner is, I believe he has now been found guilty and is in jail. But either way, there was a thought that, or very strong circumstantial evidence, that Kawhi Leonard was given a sweetheart deal for money under the table so the Clippers could get him to go play for them. Paid him under the table, allegedly, so that they can convince him to go out there. There is no smoking gun! But there is a lot of circumstantial evidence. Sorry, I'm surrounded by Lakers people over here, so I got to make sure that everybody understands that there is no real evidence that points to that fact. But that's why. And so if they decide, hey, you know what, there's something strong enough here, we're going to suspend it for 20 games, whatever it is, the Raptors deserve to know if they're going to get a guy that's going to be available for their first year or not.
Number 1.
Conor McGregor is back, and he's finally making public appearances. He's here for UFC 329 against Max Holloway. It's a big card. We'll get into the feeling around the card. Adam Hill mentioned this the other day, and I saw a good story from a UK journalist that the feelings here, for the most part, around Conor McGregor going into this fight are completely different than those in the UK who have been around, especially the Irish angles to the story and his history of violence and violence against women. So how do we cover this? Do we actually make a big statement like we've seen some of the top MMA journalists make, like Ariel Helwani, who's like, hey, it's about the event? I've said repeatedly that we can do both. You can balance it by talking about what a louse this guy is, but also be kind of excited that he's back. You could also blend him and say, he's a louse. I hope he gets his ass kicked.
I mean, that's where I'm at for the most part, because I will fully admit to, and maybe I'm not proud of it, being excited when it just kind of sneaks up on you, and it snuck up on me last week, realizing that's this coming weekend. We're fresh off at 250 for the most part, and we're sitting here getting at Max Holloway and Conor McGregor, and I am very excited from an MMA fan standpoint. You know how much I like mixed martial arts, to watch these two fight. And sometimes Conor, every once in a while, will, lace a fastball in the corner, and you'll be like, oh, he's still got it every once in a while.
A punch or just a sassy statement?
The wit.
He's one of the best promoters in the history of fight sport.
Saw a couple of moments this week.
But it is interesting you said this one snuck up on you. How is that possible?
I don't know. I'll be honest with you, I don't know. And it made me think of the conversation we've had before about just the excitement kind of draining away from these cards and not really being because there's so many of them, so you kind of get numb to how many there are.
I mean, simply said, they don't promote like they used to, and that's fine. Listen, they're making their money. If they feel like, hey, the promotion only needs like the last 4 days to make it effective and it still works, they got their money too. This isn't a pay-per-view deal anymore. That's not the model. Yep. They got their money. So a little more on Conor McGregor coming back. We'll get into the fight, get into the card, also talk about some of that negativity coming from Europe that we're not seeing a whole lot of from American journalists with Conor McGregor on the ground here, which, hey, frankly, it's a great event for us. May not feel that comfortable with McGregor being a louse, but the city is going to do well based on the event.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas and ESPN Reno.
All right, rolling on here. NBA Summer League. Hey, Connor, that's the music I was talking about that I mentioned after the show yesterday. Just pointing it out. John Von Tobel, Cofield. We're tracking the NBA Summer League day one tonight. Top two picks go at it head-to-head. DeBonsa and Darren Peterson. Get your tickets, UNLVtickets.com, or just come on down here. Games all the way through the 19th. We'll give away tickets right now. NBA Summer League, 364-1100, 364-1100. Goes through the 19th. These are good for any day moving forward. Connor's going to hook you up. Caller 7, 364-1100, 364-1100 with NBA Summer League tickets. I don't think we're going to get UFC 329 tickets. If we were going to get them, it would be very last minute. I think that the event is going to do well. It's very high price right now. We'll see where the prices are, what the get-in price is on Saturday. Well, why? Because Conor McGregor is a draw. He's a very flawed individual. I'll read you something. I thought this was interesting. Then the story is different across the pond where they know Conor McGregor really well, because that's where a lot of the allegations against him, including rape and sexual assault. He had a case in Miami. I think it was in an NBA Finals game or in the playoffs. So something happened there. But he's had a litany of charges, and he was convicted in a civil trial and had to pay over millions and millions of dollars to an Irish woman. He's also a guy who has really enjoyed his fame, right? And his wealth. And while Floyd Mayweather has done the same thing, I'm not saying Floyd's a perfect individual and has never gotten in trouble. One thing I don't think that we know about Floyd is that Floyd has imbibed or has, allegedly been involved with drugs. He's a guy who stays in shape all the time. This is these guys, the words of this guy, Ant Evans, who used to work for the UFC. He's a Brit. He tweeted about the fight itself and what McGregor has left in the tank, because that's the big question. What does the guy have when he's been away for 4 years? He's had lots of injuries. People started to finally crack the code. He wrote, McGregor's been on a 5-year bender of drink and drugs. He said, with the lost generation of the 80s heavyweights in boxing, very talented fighters can be completely undone by drugs and partying. McGregor can probably still hit very hard, at least in round 1 and 2. And Max's chin has seen better days, but McGregor, boy, this is a line, huh? And these are his words, not mine. But McGregor left his own punch resistance in a bag of Coke years ago. Hello.
I mean, and his gas tank wasn't incredible at the beginning when he was at his peak, too. And we saw that kind of decline as it went along. As after this long break, it's probably going to be pretty bad, I would assume, as well. So I'm with that. Look, he's not a good guy in really any sense of the word at all. He has not shown anything outside of what you're talking about with the rape and sexual assault allegations, the assaults of the old man in the pub, everything that we have seen from him. He is a pretty despicable. You were going to use the word miscreant when we were talking about Kennedy Carter. I think Conor McGregor's a miscreant, 100%. But to answer your question, no, I don't think people are going to care.
Here they don't.
No,
because he's incredibly charming. He's engaging. His lines around a fight are great. I kind of laugh at what he's talking about. People are asking him questions about future fights and if he'll give this guy a fight and that guy a fight. Hey, brother, you got to win this fight.
Yeah.
You're giving people fights? Now, I understand he's the link to potential big money for an opponent, but if you don't win fights, it's hard to keep having you out there and promoting you. And this sport, like every 5-year increment of this sport, I feel like it advances like 50 years.
Mm-hmm. It's like dog years.
Yeah, in terms of the skill level. He was talking about some of the Russian fighters. First of all, he's busting chops about Nurmagomedov, who destroyed him. Yeah. And he's like, he's done nothing for the sport. He's not active. But you didn't beat him. And then he actually has come up with a whole formula as to, he's actually, what Ant said here about drinking and drugging, McGregor's actually using it as part of a defense. McGregor basically said, hey, before the Khabib fight, that he really wasn't, focused and taking things seriously because of all the other activities. Mm-hmm. So he admits to that. Now, maybe he's going to have some grand comeback in his latter 30s. He's always had power, so to Ant Evans' point, he may be able to knock out Conor McGregor. I checked that. Max Holloway. And would that be good for the sport? It probably would. Mm-hmm. It probably would. If he could come back and fight 2 or 3 more times, it'd be great for the sport. I don't have any confidence that he's going to come back and be anything but a shell of himself.
To your point, he has lost 3 out of his last 4 bouts, and he has been submitted. He has been finished in all 3 of them. He has not really been there at all in terms of the competitive nature in those fights, too. And you can only do so much. And the only win over that stretch is when he was served up Donald Cerrone on a silver platter. So you can only use charisma so much. People do have to have a legitimate reason to want to watch you and expect that you could win a fight. And that has not been the case so far. But he's still got it every once in a while with entertainment value.
Give us a little Conor McGregor here as he was at the presser yesterday.
I plan to contort Max's body into such uncomfortable positions and have my way with him. That's it.
What? Okay, okay. It's a great line. It got awkward. if we actually use this as a fight breakdown comment, what is he talking about? He's going to contort what? He doesn't. That's not what he does.
Yeah, he's going to wrestle.
He might knock him out and put him in some weird position.
Can you imagine if that's his change? After 5 years, he just has nothing left, so he's just going to come out and be a pure wrestler.
I can't even describe the submission that happened. I think it was 2 fight cards ago. It was like the Sulawov stretch. You got to look up a picture of it. Like, that was contorting a body where the guy who was losing, I think it was Charles Johnson, the guy was losing, like, I don't even know how his leg got to where it was. It was just like he was twisted into a human pretzel. I don't think Conor's going to do that. But there's interesting questions that McGregor fighting on this card bring up, and a lot of it's about where the sport is now, and clearly it's pretty healthy. They got a massive deal from Paramount, $7.7 billion. The model has changed, so they're not doing pay-per-view. If McGregor wins the fight and does so in spectacular fashion, and it has a call-out, and that could mean another fight that could bring in millions of eyeballs and most importantly subscriptions for Paramount Plus, do you think it would change the direction of where Dana White and TKO have been going? Because where they've been going is the brand is the most important thing. Volume of fights is the most important thing. Stars and giving out big paydays to Conor McGregor and John Jones and developing a superstar at heavyweight like Tom Aspinall and paying him, that's not that important anymore. Mm-hmm. Could this reignite the flame where there's someone at TKO who's like, you know what, I forgot what this was like. We can make a lot of money off this. Let's start building some real stars. And if we got to pay them a little bit more, if they got to make $10, $20, $30 million in UFC and MMA, we're going to do it.
Build is the key term. Who would you build up? Who would you use? Because your stars right now are a little bit further along in their career. Probably the one you could go to would be Paddy Pimblett. If you're really going to steer into that. Now, the fighters have to do their part. They have to win fights. Sean O'Malley potentially could be another one that you build up as a character that you want to make into a star.
The first thing I would do in the short term is bring all the heavyweights back and make fights.
Of course.
If they could stay healthy over the next 2 years, they've got heavyweights who are in and out of the organization. They're fighting with Tom Aspinall because now he's got Eddie Hearn alongside him as his manager. Basically claiming that he faked an injury against Cyril Gane. Gane is clearly still in the mix because he had a nice victory. I actually still believe that Pereira can be a guy in an elite mix at heavyweight. John Jones is sidelined right now, and a lot of it is because of pay, and he's also a kind of a crackpot. So he and Dana White, are oil and water. Francis Ngannou is outside the organization. By the way, They did do something I think is really smart, and that is start to mine the American heavyweight wrestling area again. Gable Stevenson is on this card making his debut. I'm super fired up about that, but I just named 8 guys. And as those guys get better and you want to build them, they're going to demand more money, and if it turns into this pissing match all the time about money, then basically we're just boxing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and as you have pointed out, when you talk about the dog years of mixed martial arts and how the skill develops, a lot of those guys you mentioned are really skilled heavyweights. It's not just big fat guys rolling around out there and doing nothing. They would put on some very good fights. They're high-level combatants.
The other thing is having this whole crew of former Soviet Union nation fighters who are mostly wrestlers. They're well-rounded, but they're mostly wrestlers. They can't promote here in the United States because they don't speak English, and I'm not trying to be xenophobic, but that is part of it. Mm-hmm. But they come at a cheaper price. So going with that model, how do you make stars?
Yeah.
And then when you have one, Nurmagomedov, because they're also very unique in a lot of these former Soviet cultures, he's just like, yeah, I'm done. I'm 32. I made enough money. I'm sure that the government there is treating him well. I'm done. Oh, we just lost that guy. Now, my answer to if Conor McGregor blows up, even if he has a couple more fights here, I don't think it's going to change their model. Their model is their model. Now, the funny thing is, on the boxing side, they know to compete in boxing, they do have to spend tens of millions of dollars because they have competitors. So, hey, you want to do a Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua fight, and you want to go to Turkey Al Sheikh? Hey, Turk, we need, $150 million combined to pay these guys. Here you go. And then the MMA guys are looking at it wait, Tyson Fury's getting 80 and Joshua's getting 70. You give me $3 million? Yep, that's the model. Sorry.
There's flaws to every one of them, though, because at least for somebody like me on the outside looking in, I know Tyson Fury. I know Anthony Joshua. Those are really the only ones I know.
But they're not developing anyone either.
Not at all, and that's what I mean. They are not. They might have that model in terms of cash. Once those guys go, I cannot tell you the next level of boxer coming up that is going to interest me to watch anything.
But it is kind of amazing for a guy who was pretty into UFC and MMA, and you like to bet it. If I ask you now, 5 years after you were so fired up about it, who are the biggest stars of UFC today? You have a tough time coming up with the names.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I know a couple off the top of my head, but they're mostly even like the Gaethjes of the world and whatnot. Like, they're up there.
I show my age all the time. I got to look up, like, all the former Soviet fighters. I have to look up their names a lot of times. I can't. That's just ignorant on my part. But also, like, there's not a whole lot to remember. Got to be out there. They got to fight more. Let's go.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas and ESPN Reno.
Ankalaev, Chimaev, Pavlovich, Sarukian. I wanted to differentiate a little bit on some of the former Soviet bloc fighters who UFC is building much of their brand around. We got a big card in town. We'll hit this again because I want to hit Pimlet, and I wanted to talk about Gable Stevenson later in the show, who William Hill is a minus 3,000 favorite as he makes his debut. So he better not lose. Although we've seen sometimes in debuts, especially when you're making a transition, early on in your career, he's only got 3 pro fights. Yep. Sometimes upsets happen. Upsets have not been happening in the world of the A's. They've been a dog a lot. It's time for our A's spotlight here on this Thursday. Man, they have fallen apart.
Yeah, they have. 1-9 in their last 10 games. They have been absolutely wrecked here as of late. They lose again yesterday, 6-1 to the Tigers, who, by the way, have turned things on really well as we get closer to the All-Star break. But they've lost 5 straight. And the last time we were together, we were talking about them buying. But every time we've talked about it, the message has become a little less strong because their record becomes worse. And now you're at a point where you're 10 games under 500. You have teams in the race for the American League wild card that are starting to really take form and look a lot better. I mentioned the Tigers, who have won 10 out of their last 11 games or somewhere in that range, or 20-12 in their last 32 for sure. The Red Sox have won 6 straight after another win today. It's looking pretty bleak for you right now if you're the Athletics, considering some of your direct competition and the way that they're playing right now.
So what do you do?
I think you change tack, don't you? You sell.
Well, I think you can buy, and you're not just playing for this year. If you want to be aggressive, I think the most important thing is anyone who's out there, you need to be involved in or with, just in case. And a lot of that has to do with starting pitching, because they have some pitchers on the way. It looks like Gage Jump could be a guy who could be in the rotation for a long time. Hopefully Jamie Arnold is going to be that guy. Hopefully Lynn, who bumped up to Vegas in AAA but then went down with a lack of health. Hopefully he's going to be one of the guys. And, by the way, the MLB baseball draft, I think they probably need to be drafting a bunch of pitchers because, man, oh, man, they have hitting prospects freaking galore. And then that's the question. You could actually sell high with some of your prospects because – it's ridiculous with a team that's 10 games under 500 to say that you have a log jam of prospects, but they actually do on the hitting front.
Yeah.
Like they have their infielders. If JKG is for real, you already have Kurtz at first. But if DeVries is real, Tommy Tanks is hitting the hell out of the ball here in Vegas. Like you're starting to build so much depth. And also, while as an organization, you know the true assessment of what you have, there might be some guys where they're like, whoa, okay, this is a lot more than we expected. Maybe we need to sell now.
Sure. They get stuff back that could help you out in the future as well. When you're talking about the near future, I should say, as opposed to long term. But it does seem.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Jeff Passan wrote a story on ESPN.com about the top 50 trade candidates around Major League Baseball, and for most guys he had, it was 9 teams would be candidates to trade for some of these. In this case, pitchers, and he mentioned as high as Tarek Skubal, Joe Ryan, Reed Detmers, Freddie Peralta, Robbie Ray, Seth Lugo, Mitch Keller, Zach Gallen, Eddie Cabrera, Sandy Alcantara. Yeah, if the cost was right, and obviously with Skubal, then you are giving up. DeVries is probably going in the deal.
Sure, but Reed Detmers is attainable. And again, I'm an Angels guy, so I want them to sell these off. There's been reports that they're not going to. But some of these pieces, I would rather go for a Reed Detmers type than Freddie Peralta, Robbie Ray, some of these guys, you know what they are.
And that's the problem is the rental pitcher who isn't going to cost you a whole lot. Now you've fallen so down in not necessarily the standings, and they're still within hailing distance of the wild card. But, I mean, they've just played so badly lately that it changed. To me, it changed everything in terms of being aggressive.
I mean, I think there's that. I also just think it's the general, all of your competition is playing better. The Red Sox and the Tigers are going to be playoff teams, I think. And that changed within the span of a week and a half, 2 weeks.
We got more tickets to give away. This is a good one. Martin Lawrence is playing this weekend here in Vegas Resorts World on the 11th. So right around the corner on Saturday. Caller 7 right now. You can get your tickets at AXS.com, and you can win a pair right now. 364-1100. Martin Lawrence, Resorts World, 364-1100. Caller 7.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas and ESPN Reno.
All right, rolling on here on this Thursday. Every Thursday we get a chance to talk to Ray Brewer. I'm very sad Ray's not here. We usually get Ray for like 45 minutes face-to-face. There's always a lot to get into on the local scene. Ray, of course, from the Las Vegas Sun. JVT is here. We're at Thomas and Mack. What's going on, Ray?
How are you guys today?
We're good. I was just mentioning I'm sad that I'm not seeing you face-to-face here, my friend.
Well, you don't know, but secretly I've been looking at your picture all day, so I feel like I still got a good dosage of Steve today.
Well, you don't know that I was looking at your videos from your media days, so I got my fill of Ray Brewer. That was quite the production. Can you tell people about what you guys do with the Sun for media days for football?
Yeah, so at the Sun, we love high school football, and we understand that, 98% of kids don't get to play at the next level. So about 15 years ago, I came up with this crazy idea to have like a high school football media day and have it mirror what you see for like the Mountain West Conference or the SEC, and to help give kids a memory. And thankfully for us, Red Rock has opened its doors and allows us to use some of their meeting rooms. And we set it up just like you would see it at a college media day, right? You go get your picture taken, a nice portrait. You go to a press conference style interview where you're behind the podium and I'm asking questions. And really cool. The Raiders were there this year talking to the kids, taking pictures of them. And it's, again, for kids going on to the next level, maybe it's media training, but for the vast majority that won't get to play again, especially for some of those kids from some of those at-risk schools, it is a really, really cool deal, and I'm thankful that everybody helps us.
Did I see Nolan Kurhorst was asking for a kicker, and then lo and behold, there was a kicker?
Yeah, well, I'm in the school. He's at Faith Lutheran. They've got probably the best kicker in town, Liam Radke, who Nolan trains, and Faith ended up bringing Liam. They were the last team of the day. So we had a kicker from Western and then this bell cow from Faith Lutheran.
I was going to ask, I saw a great conversation with you and a cornerback for the best high school program in the Vegas Valley, the Bishop Gorman Gales, Hayden Stepp. What were you talking with him about? He's going to Oregon?
He's going to Oregon. And so the cool thing for me is I remember when that kid debuted on the varsity as a freshman, won a job as a DB, and to play freshman football as a freshman to play varsity, Steve, when you and I were kids in the 80s and 90s was the best of the best. To do it in modern-day Gorman is virtually impossible, right? You've got to be a real stud. He started since day one as a freshman at Gorman, really lanky and long and skinny. He's just blossomed into his body. Still has he's a 4-star recruit, still has plenty of opportunity to put muscle on, and a fun conversation, man. I really, really enjoy talking to that kid.
Going through some of your videos, Ray, I've kind of noticed there is a small theme where there's a lot of power conference teams being named, right? BYU commits, Oregon commits, UCLA. In your time since doing these media days, how much has it changed in terms of talking to kids and the level of program they're committing to? Does it seem that in your long time covering the Vegas Valley that power conferences are coming out here more and more?
So it all started with Steven Jackson. He kind of flew under the radar at El Dorado in the late 90s, early 2000s, went to Oregon State, started as a true freshman in Oregon State, was really, really good. And I think people were like, well, what are we missing in Vegas? Where did the Steven Jackson kid come from? and they started recruiting our valley a little more. And then Bishop Gorman built its Summerlin campus, which has a football stadium and complex that looks like a major college campus. And Tony Sanchez comes and they start building, what you could argue is the greatest high school football program in America, or one of the top 5. And now coaches are jumping over each other to get here. And it's not just for Gorman players. I tell anybody, Gorman staff, Brett Browner right now, they do a great job of pointing coaches in other directions to recruit kids. And, you go to my videos, the Shadow Ridge kid, Colton Richter, is going to Washington State, right? Arborview, tight end, UCLA, wide receiver, Texas A&M, wide receiver, UNLV, quarterback, Oregon State. So we've got some Jimmies and Joes here for sure.
Who's the kid at Liberty, a running back who's going to BYU?
Yeah, his first name is Ezra, and we could be here, Steve, for 3 hours over 12 weeks, and I couldn't say his last name. It's a Polynesian last name, but he's another kid that started day one as a freshman at Liberty, which, in 2019 beat Gorman, has been nationally ranked, travels the region playing games. So to play at Liberty is quite an accomplishment. He's played there since, his youth days. He grew up in their feeder program, and he's just a great running back with the ball, man. Really hard and aggressive. It takes a special kid to want to, go in between the tackles and at the same time pop out and take one long on you. And he definitely fits the bill. Going to BYU, which, BYU's throwing around some good NIL money now.
Last time you were in, I don't think UNLV had made many inroads into commits for this coming class, but they actually did the last couple of weeks. How do you think they've done? And then what's the reaction from the community in terms of the way this UNLV football staff is attacking Vegas?
Well, the coaches definitely see more presence in the last 3 or 4 years, with them stopping by to check things out. A great example is the kid from Las Vegas High School, whose name I cannot remember, but a defensive lineman who didn't have much recruiting interest. They camped over at UNLV. Staff loved him, got to know him a little bit, offered him, and now he's going there. Big-bodied defensive lineman. And you could say, okay, well, hey, this kid's got some potential. So to their credit, they're doing a good job of, we talked about this 2 weeks ago, but they're bringing a lot of good high school kids, both locally and regionally.
In the Las Vegas Sun, you wrote a story just a couple days ago about how this is the year. This is a really important year for UNLV football. Why?
I just, Steve, and this is crazy saying this because I've been here my whole life. I know the long Saturday nights at Sam Boyd Stadium, the 2-win seasons, and sniffing a bowl game appearance like in 2012 when they went to the Heart of Dallas Bowl with Caleb Herring and played North Texas was like, Hall of Fame, school Hall of Fame worthy type of run. But after, winning 3 games the last 3 years, going to the Mountain West Championship game, going to 3 straight bowl games, you got to whet your appetite for a little more. And as odd as it sounds, another bowl game, win or lose, just won't be satisfying. They've got a good team. They've got a schedule that they can navigate. They can win the Mountain West. And there's some projections that have them going to the college football playoff. So if they don't reach that, we should be disappointed. And at the same time, we, Las Vegas, UNLV graduates, football fans, they ought to show up and cheer for this team and root for them, because this could be just one of those seasons that we'll never forget. I mean, you've got a 5-star. If you would have told me 10 years ago that UNLV's got a 5-star quarterback, Jackson Arnold, I don't care how he got here, that they'd be playing in a shared stadium with an NFL team, and they'd be on the cusp of a college football playoff, which we wouldn't know if it existed, I would have thought you were crazy. But this season is definitely in front of them, and there's some opportunity.
How about the fact that, along with the Jackson Arnold story, is that he's replacing Anthony Calandria, who came here, transferred in from Virginia, who was a former 3-star, who then got stolen by Nebraska for more than $2 million.
Yeah, there you go. It's a bizarro world. If you were in a coma for 10 years and you woke up, you would, and saw those headlines in Las Vegas Sun, Steve, you would have definitely been confused.
Well, it's been one of those things, and a lot of places say this, sleeping giant, they can get there, why can't they win? And, these coaches along the way have all had their part in building things, and now Mullen being here is an absolute freaking coup. I don't know if I want to use the word push back. I think it's great having expectations of making the college football playoff. I just do not want fans early in the season against what I think is a really tough non-con schedule, also dotted with a trip to Hawaii. If they come out of the gates and lose a game or two, to be like, sucks, season's a failure, like, relax.
Yeah, and you're right. What are they on the road, like 4 of the first 5 Saturdays, give or take? And it's not like they're going down to L.A., right? They're going to Hawaii, they're going into Ohio, they're going into Texas. And there's so many unknowns, not to mention once the season gets going, they have to go to New Mexico, who outclassed them last year. And
hey, Ray, they also have Cal here with a infusion of money and a potential NFL quarterback. Cal's really good, which is great. It's here. I think to build on it, too, though, it is really important for those Memphis and Cal games for UNLV fans, but especially casuals. Show up, see the stadium. You haven't been there. It's hard to go to Raiders games. It's pricey. This is big-time football. Get out and support them.
Absolutely, man. I mean, dude, imagine going to a pro stadium for, and I don't know what tickets are to UNLV games, but $20 or $30 to go to a college football game. And we're not talking about UNLV Idaho State or UNLV against whomever they played the last time you were there when they were in the PCAA and Pacific and Long Beach still had teams. We're talking about a team that's on that's in contention, that has a legitimate opportunity to be playing in a college football playoff game. One projection I saw had him at Georgia, which I think will be absolutely hilarious.
Ray Brewer, Las Vegas Sun, is with us. All right, we got 2 minutes left, and this will be a longer conversation down the road, but you are a former soccer player in high school. You had great success with Shap. I don't know that you grew up rich. There's this whole discussion with the USA men's soccer team that soccer has become very exclusionary and that middle-income and lower-income kids are shut out from the game. What's your take? I mean, you know a lot about youth sports. Has soccer become just ridiculous for families to afford?
Yeah, well, everybody needs to go check out the downtown Las Vegas Soccer Club, hosted by my guy Roger Tabor, who is the main booster of the UNLV Foundation for Soccer. That downtown club is well coached, well organized, and it takes all kinds of inner city kids and really develop kids the right way. The fees are very, very low. He makes it almost free. I agree that people are in clubs, and you've heard Landon Donovan go on and say that the coaching's kind of backwards, but thankfully in Las Vegas we have that soccer club that Mr. Tabor runs that I think does a good job. But of course it is very pricey, and I coach a rec team, and thankfully it's only $100. But if we were to play in our rec league's competitive leg, it would be uniform fees and coaching fees and park rental fees and road trips. And not only do I not want to invest that money that I may or may not have, I don't know if I have the time to invest in that for my kid.
Yeah. Last 30 seconds. Ray, what did you play? What position did you play in soccer?
So in high school, I was a defensive midfielder, and in club I played sweeper.
I like the sweeper, yeah!
Nice.
Well, we got into it yesterday, and we only have a couple seconds left. Adam Hill was pointing out, and again, these are generalities, that our defense for the U.S. team sucks because kids don't want to play defense, and I was like, I played defense. I love playing defense. Now, I wasn't great, but I beat the hell out of people, ran them down. Like, I like playing defense.
Yeah, and if you play defense the right way, there's a lot of good runs that you can make upfield to contribute to the attack. You saw Freeman had a goal in one of the qualifying games, and he's a backer for USA Soccer, who, after the first game, they win 4-1. We think, the U.S. has a chance to win. Everybody's all in. Everybody can't. They're so happy. And then they have a crappy game to close off, and now we're all down on USA.
Yep. All right, Ray, we're up against it. We'll see you in a couple weeks, buddy. Las Vegas Sun, everybody. Check it out.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't even care when I was playing defense about making good runs. I just wanted to hit people, tackle them, kind of be dirty, just F up the glamour players. Let's go.
Now back to ESPN Las Vegas, broadcasting from inside the Thomas and Mack.
Another hour here at the T&M. John Von Tobel, Cofield, Mateo is steering the ship down here. Connor doing a good job back on the board. Knock on wood, right? There's the jinx, right? Sorry, put the pressure on your brother. A lot to get to this hour. A lot more NBA news, notes, ownership talk. Las Vegas Jacks. Love the name. I don't know that was really the main focus. That should have come out of that whole thing yesterday,
that was it.
But people got very worked up about that. We were just talking college football, because UNLV kicks off here, and I think it's 51 days. They got Memphis in town. And there's a lot of stories to be told about this UNLV roster. Much of the national attention is going to be reserved for Jackson Arnold, the quarterback who's in from Oklahoma and Auburn, was a former top 10 quarterback in his class. And I know CBS Sports did a good feature on Jackson Arnold and what this opportunity is like here in Vegas, a place that, probably, as Ray Brewer was saying last hour, 5 years ago, you would never imagine a former top 10 quarterback landing in Vegas, but they've got a quarterback guru and his sidekick, and Dan Mullen and Corey Dennis.
When it speaks to what you've always talked about when it comes to this new era of transfer portal and the ability to switch schools, is I think a lot of people look at it and just go, why can't you just stick it out? You stink, don't move around, all these sort of things. And you look at Jackson Arnold and and what he has gone through when it came to Oklahoma and the situation he was put in there, the wide receiver injuries they had to suffer through, and then ultimately affected his level of play. Transferring to Auburn, where he figured, hey, I'm in a pretty good situation. It's an SEC school. I can improve. And then all of a sudden, you're kind of part of the situation, which is the fall guy for a new regime coming in. And when a new regime comes in, they want their own people. So it seems like that's going to be a spot where maybe you're not welcome as strong, but that you're not welcome in the sense of being the guy. And so what do you do? You get back in the portal. You try to find somewhere again that might work for you. And it just so happens that UNLV opens up with the surprise of Calandria deciding to head off to the Big Ten. So I think that he is a really good story for, like we've talked about with Keyshawn Hall, going around, moving around, but doing it for, I guess we'll call it the right reasons. But also, as they note in the piece, nothing's given. You are not only, it's not given with where you originally recruited, it's not a given where you end up the first time in the transfer portal, and it is not given here as you are locked into a quarterback battle with Alex Orji for a team that has very high expectations when it comes to the end of the season.
I mean, the quarterback position is so heightened, too. The window's so small for you to achieve and establish yourself, and that's why you see quarterbacks bouncing around. Now you've got situations, there are multiple schools where there are reclamation projects who have bounced to 2 and 3 spots. They landed a spot, then they still bring in another guy, and you're like, okay, who the hell is starting? It's the most competitive position, and it's the most important position. Your team's season hinges on someone playing well. Let's do this, because I see it all the time. Like, Jaden Rashada has become this laughingstock for people. He's the kid who, again, was another top 10 quarterback. He committed, decommitted, he's bounced around. He was at Sac State, Georgia, commit to Miami, Florida, Arizona State. Now he's at Mississippi State. And I see people hating on that kid all the time. Put yourself in the shoes of being what you believe you are, a high achiever at your job. Say you have a sales job, right? I'll go to a job that we see everywhere in town, right? Sales job. I'm not going to say low-level sales job because I actually did it at one point. A car salesman. You don't think there are car salesmen who are like, hey, I'm at a place, I'm not feeling it, I got to leave. Or I need to find a place that I jive better with, or a boss that works with me better, or the desk works with me. Like, I think everyone has jobs where, lots of people have jobs, not everyone. Lots of people have jobs where the mix isn't right and you need to bounce around. And frankly, that's more of a new era thing. My era and older, like boomers, I don't want job advice from boomers. And frankly, I don't want to give job advice as a Gen Xer because we didn't move around. Oftentimes, people around me were miserable and they just stayed at the same freaking job. I say this all the time. I admire kids for going and seeking out opportunities, and it doesn't mean you're not tough. Sometimes your boss ain't the right boss. Sometimes your coworkers ain't the right coworkers. The formula, what you're selling, what you're delivering isn't right. And in Jackson Arnold's case, the situations at Oklahoma and Auburn were crap. They're elite programs, but their expectations, especially at Auburn, are way too high considering where they are right now. And at Oklahoma, it's a mess. Venables even, I heard Venables last year before, the year that Jackson Arnold played at Auburn, basically apologized. He's like, we did that kid wrong. We didn't set him up for success. So if the coach understands that, I don't understand why it's become so popular to hate on kids who bounce around trying to find the right spot. Because then there are the stories, like the UNLV-related stories, John, as you mentioned, Keyshawn Hall and Anthony Calandria. And we're going to tell you, I didn't even realize about Calandria. We'll tell you a note in about 3 minutes on Calandria. It is tremendous. And Keyshawn Hall, it worked out. It doesn't mean that they're low-character guys or quitters or not loyal.
Quote, I know this without reservation. He's, being Jackson Arnold, going to play this game a really long time at a really high level. Unfortunately for him, everything around him wasn't helping him to be successful. He had no chance in some ways under the circumstances and dealt a really bad hand. That was Brent Venables talking about Jackson Arnold and his time there at Oklahoma. And there's going to be stories, as I'm sure people will scream about. Yes, there are some bad actors. Yes, there are kids who are maybe going to either take advantage of the portal, be given bad information, or support, whatever you want to call it. Yes, there are sure there are. But there are more stories of this working out for kids and doing it the right way, that it should not be viewed by some the way that it is.
There are guys who bounce around needlessly and bail after every single year, and that's not super smart. I think Jackson Arnold's found the mix. I believe in Mullen and Dennis. Why? Well, we know Mullen's history over the years in working with quarterbacks. He's worked with 6+ who have been highly successful. I probably don't even have the number right, but just based on last year, Anthony Calandria came in and was kind of a lost cause in terms of his discipline on the field. He was a mess. And they got him to play efficient football. He was the Mountain West Conference Offensive Player of the Year. And he was one of the most important parts of that team getting to where it got. And in the end, people kind of figured him out. He got a little bit loose and some of that discipline stuff reared its ugly head again, and the end of the season wasn't strong. But hey, Nebraska ponied up, $2+ million, and it's worked out nicely for him. Now, here's a story I was referencing. I hadn't processed, and I really haven't even had a chance to. I don't know if anyone has, because it's going to play its way out here. This 5-5 thing really is intriguing in college sports, but let's stick to football. Man, it's wild for quarterbacks because think about Calandria, think about Arnold, think about a lot of the if you want to say those guys are great or are going to be great, think about a lot of the Devin Dampier, right? They're not likely NFL quarterbacks. The NFL is really hard to make as a quarterback. The 5-5 thing now, one, allows you to be a little more patient at the beginning of your career, but the other part of it is the most coveted position and the most profitable position. Calandria's got 2 years now. He just got $2 million plus.
Avery Johnson at Kansas State, but there's so many of them. Yeah.
Aiden Childs is a guy I followed for a while because at one point the school I follow was in on him from 3,000 miles away. Childs decided to go to Oregon State, then followed his coach to Michigan State. Now he's at Northwestern. By the way, if I had a chance to talk to that kid, I would love to know why Northwestern this time around. And I would love for him to say, you know what, I really wanted to continue a great education. I would admire that so much. That is such a smart move, pun intended.
Maybe it's to work with former Raiders offensive coordinator Chip Kelly.
That is one of the draws.
Yeah.
But a lot of these guys who now were looking at, hey, you know what, I bounced around, haven't exactly found my spot. This is it. This is it. This is going to be the last year. It's not. Arnold's got 2 years now. Calandria's got an extra year. Childs has an extra year. I mean, Dampier is not an NFL quarterback because of his size. I think it's going to be fascinating to see how Utah handles their quarterback position, though, because there are places where because then you go back, you got to worry about retaining the younger guys, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, we really like this senior quarterback, but the plan was he's here for a year, and then mega recruit X is ready to go next year.
For those who haven't seen it, Bird Ficklin over there at Utah, he had 13 total touchdowns last year. Looks like he's going to be great. And now to your point, I mean, what do you do? If you're Ficklin and if you're Dampier, and that's, again, going back to the situation, why you don't blame a guy like a Ficklin, for example. If Dampier's going to stick around for another one, okay, then I want to go play. I'm going to go find somewhere that I can use my talents to go play somewhere. I think that makes a ton of sense.
I've never understood the mentality of people who who can't understand why you would transfer. Again, I will liken it to anyone's job. Like, you want to play. You want to be in the mix. You don't want to be a backup. There's nothing wrong with that.
Does Dante Moore fall into this 5-5, right?
I mean, would he come back again?
You don't ever know.
Yeah.
He was guaranteed.
What if he got hurt and he has an underwhelming season?
Sure. I shouldn't say guaranteed, but he was going to be, by all accounts, a top 2 pick. And what if he takes a step back this year? And why that matters is Dylan Raiola went over there this year. So now you've got these 2 high-end guys that are on the same roster, and what if one of them does? What if the guy at the top and Dante Moore decides, no, I like college, I'm going to stick around, or I want to develop more?
I also think, as a college football fan, as I said multiple times here, and we all know this, quarterback is the linchpin on your team. How exciting is it knowing that there's all these guys who are now going to have an extra year, and then you can always be veteran at quarterback if you want to be veteran at quarterback? Mm-hmm. Like, as long as Dan Mullen is here, I would expect UNLV to always be in the mix to get a top 7 transfer quarterback because of the reputation. And now there's going to be this free agent market every offseason. Lots of people look at that as like the bane of college football, and it's terrible. I don't know. I look at it from UNLV's standpoint. It's revitalized a freaking program.
Yep.
They've won 30 games in 3 years.
I mean, there should be nobody out here that complains about it.
Again, I was referenced the school I went to, which has been middling now in the Big Ten for a while, at Rutgers. I'll say it gives us a chance. You go out and get a different quarterback every year. If you can't recruit one, because there are schools that they just don't have success developing quarterbacks. Go and get a guy who's got 3 years under his belt.
Or, I mean, with the new rule, too, look, there's a chance, like, let's say Jackson Arnold revitalizes his career and he's great. He could leave, but what if you convince him to stay? Now you get an extra year of a guy playing like that. I mean, there's so many ways that it works. It is crazy how we've talked about this. The rate at which UNLV has turned over quarterbacks but had success with those quarterbacks, I mean, is nuts, considering the hellhole that some of these other programs have been in at the position.
And let me tell you, if it doesn't happen, like if Arnold doesn't achieve or gets hurt, and then Orji isn't 100% back, and then they're like, oh, crap, now we have to turn to someone really young, and the season turns into like 7-5, I know people are going to be like, what? Like, don't take for granted what's happened the last 3 years. I'll throw it at you on who's, I think one of your favorite quarterbacks in college football is Sangapolatelli.
Oh, Jaron Chiave Sangapolatelli.
I don't know if he's going to be at Cal. I think they've got money and they've got a Poly connection at coach, but if he has a monster year and say they go like 7-5, you don't think there's going to be 15 like super power schools who are like $5 million, let's go.
I would back up the truck. What if, I mean, we'll paint this as a hyper-specific scenario because we're talking about Dampier. What about his old coach, Kyle Whittingham? Bryce Underwood goes out there, doesn't perform well. And then you have Jaron Chiave Sangapolatelli, I just love saying his whole name, who's just giant with a huge arm, has a massive year for Cal. And a program like Michigan can't back up whatever truck needs to be backed up to go and get him to go play there in the Big Ten.
Yeah. College football's ruined. Okay, I guess. I don't know what you're watching.
Right, but it's also better because you get quarterbacks like that when they move up to play at a higher level, to watch them in those big moments. I mean, no offense to Cal, I don't know what they're going to be able to do this year. I think they're going to be pretty good. But a quarterback to the level of JKS playing in a college football playoff would be great for everybody.
And all you want a chance as a fan, all you want to find is a chance to win, a chance to build.
Yep.
And this gives you a chance. And you don't have to have billions. There's plenty of players to go around. Yes, Ohio State and Michigan and Alabama and Texas Tech are going to spend tens of millions of dollars on their roster. There are thousands of players. You can put together a team, with a decent budget. And I think these budgets will also be reined in a little bit here in the next couple of years. All you want to have is a chance to compete and win, which brings us back to this discourse that has been going on for a couple of days now. I find it fascinating. I understand how algorithms work on social media. The more you read stuff and click on stuff, the more you're going to get it. I am getting so much USA Soccer on all of my platforms. And now I want to have this conversation with everyone. John's a great guy to talk to. This whole conversation about youth soccer in this country turning into a rich kid's sport, which, by the way,
it's because I'm rich.
Alexi Lawless, I want to get to your family in a second. Alexi Lawless, who, of course, is one of the voices of U.S. soccer, whether you like it or not, he's been pushing back on this. And he said, hey, youth soccer, youth sports is a competitive market with businesses selling a product that obviously customers are willing to pay for. I'd love if soccer was free to all, but who's going to pay for all this free soccer? And that has set people off. Like, you don't have to make money on everything, Alexi. And yes, things can be publicly funded. Tax money can go to developing sports and getting kids involved in sports. I throw it to you. Your sons are how old?
7 and 4.
Okay. Are you rich enough now to have your kids in 5 years playing club soccer? Have you even budgeted it? And here's the other thing. That's all they can play, John. Yeah. If your kid wants to play baseball, you shut up. Mm-hmm. You're playing soccer. You want to play football? No. You got to commit to soccer because that's what they're asking for.
Right.
By the way, it's a radio show. Relax, everyone. Everyone's like, there's a bar fight.
This lady's charging her phone. She's looking at you like, it's okay. We promise. Yeah.
You shut up. But have you thought about this?
Well, you know what?
Stand up. Have you thought about this? This is a sad reality. Like, of course it is. Listen, I didn't have kids. I do okay. But I'm very cheap. I don't know what I would tell my kids. Be like, sorry, man. We're playing in rec leagues.
Yeah.
You got to develop that way. You're not playing in a freaking, how much? $20,000 to play soccer? First of all, you're going to get more enjoyment out of playing 3 or 4 sports. And I'm not paying just for you to play soccer on Profiteer Guys Club.
I mean, that to me is it. And that's the other thing. It doesn't have to be. Look, the level of players that play club sports and then move on to do high-level things, or it's probably a higher percentage of what you play at rec league, but is it to the point where it's a necessity? Absolutely not. You can learn the game. You can have plenty of passionate coaches that teach you properly, and if you're committed as an individual, you have that passion, you can learn to do those sort of things. No, I would not budget for that. No, I would not be down for something like that. I'm with you, too, just the general thought of kids are better off playing different sports anyway instead of hyper-focusing on one individual sport for the rest of their entire lives. But your premise, which I like the most, is you don't always have to make a profit on things. And sometimes profit does not come in the form of money. Sometimes profit comes in the forms of developing a generation of kids that are healthier, better at the sport that you're talking about, and maybe even the trickle-down effect. Maybe the trickle-down effect of that is that eventually your nation's football club becomes better and more enriched with talent because you're actually investing, and that is the profit that you make from it.
So I was mentioning earlier in the show in hour 1 for people who were not listening, and we know not everyone listens for the entire time because we're live here at the Thomas and Mack. Lots of NBA coming up with the Summer League adjacent to us at the Pavilion and on the Thomas and Mack court proper. I was making the case earlier of what I feel like U.S. soccer on the men's side is, and I don't think you guys bought into my whole case about thinking you're a big deal because in your neck of the woods you're a big deal, but when you go and play on an elite level you're not. I talked about some whatever, Paducah, Kentucky, some dominant parochial school team, and then all of a sudden they step up and it's like, oh wait, we're not that good. Even we walk around town and around our county puffing out our chest, and oftentimes I feel like that's kind of the attitude around U.S. men's soccer. It's also what I used to feel as a kid and a teen, 20-something, around tennis and golf. Like, I played tennis, decent at it, but my parents didn't give me lessons. I didn't ask for lessons. Played golf, wasn't very good. But when you get around those people, because they're money sports, you're like, I don't know if I belong here. I don't know if I'm going to get a chance. And that's the way tennis and golf have been. It's hard to make it as a middle class or lower class, lower income, I don't want to say class, kid, right? And that's, if that is the way soccer is going, I think that's really sad because I had a great time playing soccer as a kid. I do really think it is a cool sport. You learn a lot of lessons from it. Certainly from a cardio standpoint, it's great. Just competing is awesome. When we don't want any of these sports to be rich kid sports. I understand in the sports where there's facilities are issues or equipment is an issue, but soccer facilities and equipment, that's not an issue, really.
That's what I get bothered by. It's almost like you're privatizing water to an extent where it's just, you should just be able to have a ball and 2 nets. You don't even need nets. When I was a kid, you would just put 2 garbage cans up together and say once you kick it past that's a goal. You do it all the time in football, too. You just need a football, and then that's the line of the end zone, and then you can play. And, yes, are you somewhat limited to an extent? But to teach the game to kids, you don't need more than just that. Maybe throw in some shin guards so you don't get hurt. But outside of that, all you need is a ball. And you can find countless examples in other countries where they're not these highly developed clubs and facilities, and that you're learning out just playing amongst friends, family. And the passion's born from that. Skill is born from that. And then you go on to maybe move on to a higher level. But this need for it to start right away with some club where somebody is profiting off of it, that's where I think Lawless is missing the point.
Hey, Connor, I'm going to set up Donovan 1 and 2. It's not specifically on the rundown in the section it's supposed to be in. I didn't put it in there. So I wanted to move on to just sort of the soccer. It's a weird sport in this country because it's also, as I say all the time, there's a kind of the soccer snoots. So while we talk about at the lowest levels, kids are being excluded from it, it almost seems like the folks who are involved in soccer at the highest levels kind of want it that way. They want it to be exclusive, and they're, like I said, they're kind of snooty. And listen, Christian Pulisic is right now a punching bag. It's the way he carries himself. He didn't perform well. He doesn't have people around him who understand or care to realize that optics are really important. But I think a lot of us, they don't care. They're like, whatever. These people don't know what they're talking about. We're talking sports. So most people have a decent take on sports. And optics are really important. And I'll tell you, Landon Donovan, going back, he's one of those guys I looked at and I was like, does this kid get it? And then he's kind of like a tiny, frail guy. He's an elite performer, but I don't know. I didn't really connect with him. And Pulisic kind of has some of that too. And Landon Donovan was on his podcast the other day, and he said, I made a lot of these mistakes. And he said, and you're going to hear it in the bite, like, there was a rock bottom for me, and I was the freaking punching bag. And he said it's nowhere near now. Like, with the internet, this Pulisic guy is getting it. But, man, he said a couple of things, and I was like, okay, now I especially get why the former players and some people around soccer are going and trying to crush. They're actually willing to put Pulisic up as the sacrificial lamb. Here's Landon Donovan talking about U.S. soccer and Christian Pulisic.
It led me to therapy. It led me to take a look at my life and my career honestly for the first time. It allowed me to have massive, important conversations with people I love in my life about all things, not just soccer. And it changed my life forever in a positive way.
So it was a real awakening. And by the way, this applies to all sports, right? Like, you fail when you're supposedly the king or the face of an organization. I mean, we are a vicious society now. Not just us. I mean, come on. Some of these countries that have gone home fell short of their goals. What was the country? Was it Algeria? They were like, you're not flying back.
Right.
Get your own flights.
Yep.
Like, okay. But there's with all those profits and stardom, there's also a lot of responsibility, and you have to learn how to be an adult and how to lose the right way and how to be the leader on a club that is losing. I thought this was great. This is like real inside dope. As he talks about, this is this guy Pulisic's image, and this is why, like Carly Lloyd, I think this is part of the reason she was like, oh, I'm going to get me some now. I'm going at this guy.
One of the biggest problems, I speak to people who are at U.S. Soccer, I speak to his sponsors, I speak to his teammates, I speak to the staff and the coaches. People are fed up with the way things are handled around him. They treat people poorly, they do things poorly. It's always a no. Whenever you want to ask, can we do an interview? It's always a no. You can't get near him. He doesn't say hi to the commentators who do all the games all the time when they walk by. All the other guys come over and shake hands and say hello. There's just this sense about him that, like, you can't get near him, it's too big. And I actually don't think it's from him. I think it's from the people around him.
Yep. And that's the worst, when it's the people around the elite athlete who have convinced this guy he doesn't need to talk to anyone. I mean, come on. Now, some people might hear that and it's like, why do you have to say hi to the announcer? Why do you have to? You do. Because that's part of being a leader on the team. Again, I tie it to any regular job. How do most of us move forward in most jobs? Because you're a super high performer? No.
Right. It's relationships.
Because people like you.
Yeah.
It's because you're pleasant, or at least you're pleasant to the right people. You kiss the right ass. I thought I was like, wow, that's some good inside dope. And I can immediately think of athletes that I've covered where I was like, yeah, that's... And then you see why. Like, it does... I think there are mysterious cases. Like, maybe LeBron is a jackass. I don't know if he is. Maybe he is, and maybe that's why so many people go at him. But you see why former athletes will go after current day athletes sometimes because of this. Mm-hmm. Because they handle things so poorly.
You got to kiss the ring at some point. Some of it is, I think, jealousy to an extent, but I think this with Pulisic is a little bit different, considering you want every bit of the benefit of being, it would seem, the face of the franchise, the face of the program, the face, as we've talked about, the nickname, Captain America, the face of our country to an extent.
By the way, who gave him that nickname?
Just a general nickname, I suppose.
Isn't that Patrick Reed, too? The golfer?
Really?
I thought Ryder Cup.
I heard
I had the wrong golfer.
I heard Fat Pat before.
Who comes up with these names?
Patrick Reed.
And then if you're the player or athlete, aren't you like, no.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to be Captain America.
But in a sense, you are. You're the face of Team USA or the U.S. men's national team.
But a lot of people will tell you now he was never the best player. He's not the best player. So why the hell was he dubbed that? I mean, I think Adam Hill was suggesting it strongly yesterday because you need a white to be Captain America when Weston McKennie is probably the best player on the team.
It could be. I mean, my own personal recollection as somebody who doesn't really follow U.S. soccer a ton is I remember learning about him because he was one of the few Americans that was making it to a high-level club team and performing overseas in that role, and thus being not only the best, I'll put in air quotes, player on the U.S. men's national team, but a representative for America in a sport in which we have struggled greatly. And so I think that's why he was donned with that. It's not even that you were maybe even the best player, but at that point, you were the most forward-facing player, and so you got the moniker of Captain America. But overall, I would say this too. At some point, you do have to be more just, I guess, up when it comes to your energy, higher. Mm-hmm. The mopey, quiet nature of what this has been is really weird, and he just comes across kind of as an odd guy. There was a quote that was being passed around in an old article where he had a chain with a cross on it with Jesus, and I guess throughout the interview in this article, he kept putting it up to his lips, and so the interview asked him, "Oh, is that a big part of your life, religion?" And Pulisic's response was, "You mean the chain?" He didn't have any idea what it was, and it seemed performative, it seemed odd, and that comes across at times when you lose a game like that and you're just down, you're sullen, and it's just all about, we're building, don't worry, it's next year.
Play along with me on this one, okay? I'm going to mention a guy who has dual citizenship in the mix. Pulisic isn't winning with Team USA. They're not winning at the highest level. Now, the expectations aren't realistically as high. But let's compare them to some American athletes and the way they've handled themselves and the way they get it when they don't handle themselves well, right? American athletes who are expected to win lots of titles. Now, I'm going to mention a guy who has one, but it's never enough, right? The four athletes I wanted to mention and the way they carry themselves. LeBron, Aaron Judge, Joel Embiid, and Josh Allen. Let's start with Josh Allen. How do you think Josh Allen comes off? Because here's the point, and these are the optics. Even if it's taken out of context, Christian Pulisic can't say moments after they lose or within a day of losing in the World Cup and the country's like, what the hell just happened? I need to rest. You can't say it. Mm-hmm. I don't care if you're like, well, I know I do need it. No one wants to hear it, okay? That's not the way it works. Josh Allen, after they lose every freaking year in heartbreaking fashion, how does he come across?
Pretty humble.
Like he wants to kill himself. Yep. Like he is miserable. And
it's my fault.
Whether it's fake or not, takes the blame.
Yep.
And people listening can be like, well, it's bullcrap. You don't have to do that. You kind of do.
Well, and the good leaders will take it and, hey, your kicker missed that game-winning kick from 15 yards out. How does that happen? He shouldn't have been in the position in the first place. They'll immediately go into that and somehow try to take the blame and pull it away from teammates, and that's a really good sign of leadership, as we have seen many times.
Yeah, I didn't think we'd be having this conversation. I knew that USA wouldn't win the World Cup, and I guess I knew that there'd be all these 2-week experts talking about how to fix the game, and we get the same old, we need our big athletes, and it's the A sport, no one cares. I didn't think we'd get the whole youth soccer thing, and that we'd have a punching bag in Pulisic to point to and go, that's not what we want for USA soccer, but that's what we've gotten the last 3 days. Sports is awesome, man.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It really is.
It does. Yeah. Well, I know you want to go break, but is it fair of me to ask or say that it almost feels like not that we're not allowed to do this, but it does feel odd that for 3.9 years, we have not spoken about the U.S. men's national team at all.
Yeah.
And then here they are on the biggest stage, and they fail spectacularly. And Pulisic says things that are not things that a true leader should say or acts like it. But we haven't really covered it all, and now we're like, you losers! Get better!
I know. And that's why, John, I said it on the air to the audience, and I'll say it again to this part of the audience and to you. The first 2 days of the week, and and this includes the radio shows, and I did an appearance on Fox on Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network, and I got done with the shows, and I'm like, man, my soccer takes, they're not strong enough. I'm watching JT the Brick, who apparently is a really big soccer guy, I guess. But JT's got those strong takes, and I got home each night, and I'm like, it kind of sucked. But part of me is also like, I'm not giving a strong take on something I don't believe in. And I don't want to put up, I don't want to have Pulisic as this freaking punching bag when he shouldn't be. Now, this kind of got me amped up about the way he's handling things. But you're right. It is ridiculous that we do this every 4 years, and then it goes away, and then we're all soccer experts in 4 more years when, inevitably they fall short. I have hopes, though. I have hopes that they will
do a monthly team, U.S. men's national team check-in.
We could make sure, even though Adam Hill doesn't get to be a chance or doesn't have a chance to be a part of the show all the time because he's so busy at the paper, we probably should. We being me, I'm on the show every day. I probably should make a commitment that every time there is some U.S. game of note, that we talk about it with Adam.
See what's going on here?
That'll probably never happen. I don't know. There's some big shindig going on.
It's not some big shindig, folks. That's a Clippers party right there, folks.
Wow.
There's dozens of us. Look at them. I'm going to get in there somehow. I'll tell you that right
John's
now.
done on the show. He's done on the show. On the way back, I do want to address LeBron and the landing spot. And also, I saw a commit today in college basketball that blows my freaking mind.
Now, back to ESPN Las Vegas, broadcasting from inside the Thomas and Mack.
We're on live video right now on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook. Some of the most recent comments. Leslie said, I love baked beans. We were talking baked beans around 3:45. Larry said, JVT, where do I find the starting lineups for the Magic and the Hornets?
Well, I don't know about the starting lineups, but the entire rosters can be found on my Twitter account at MeJVT. I like to every single year compile every announced roster and put it on a nice little Google Doc.
Awesome. Scott chimed in and said, any Rebel news at 4:33, so we reacted immediately and added topics to the show. Now, we were planning on doing it at 5 o'clock, so we were talking about Jackson Arnold a little while ago. If you missed it, make sure you check out our post-show videos, or more accurately, reliably, I'll say this, our audio archive at lvsportsnetwork.com. And then Scott also followed up by saying, JVT's always yawning. Well, I'm kind of boring.
Am I really?
He also gets up early in the morning.
I got up at 3:30 this morning.
We have a little bit of breaking news on the Aces, but we'll get to that in 10 minutes. First word from Becky Hammond about Kennedy Carter being waived, but
every detail.
I did want to mention LeBron because I just have to. I love LeBron. Where are you on the, hey, there's 5 teams interested, or, hey, there's no one interested, and the only place that wants him is the Cavs?
People think that latter statement is true?
Oh, yeah.
Who thinks that?
Lots. LeBron haters. A lot of the accounts that slam LeBron all the time, that's the narrative they started coming up with about 5 days ago. And we had a listener who said, let me find that note from a while ago. Basically, does anyone want LeBron? I mean, what's he going to play, 20 minutes a game?
What are we doing?
I know.
You guys are so stupid.
I answered back. I was like, here's one metric. He was like the number 24 player in the NBA last year. Yes, people still want him. He's the most impressive endurance athlete we've ever seen in team sports.
You know what? They might have you know what, Steve? Actually, I kind of take this back. They might actually not want a guy that this last season gave you 20 points per game, 5 rebounds, 6 assists on, 51% shooting from the floor. Who needs that? He would only give you 20 minutes a game. We can't be this stupid. You could say you don't like LeBron.
Yeah, just say it.
But to act like he doesn't make a team better is stupid.
Yeah.
Especially when because think about this. We're so used to thinking of LeBron in the context of greatest player. So people assume, and I think this is part of what people are thinking, is that LeBron equals number one option wherever he goes. No, this LeBron is the third or fourth option on whatever he's joining. And by the way, he knows that because he's willing to take less money to go and play for wherever he's going to go play. He's not an idiot.
Yeah. He's a great get now because you're getting him for pennies on the dollar.
Yes.
Cavs, Sixers, Heat, Warriors, Spurs, T-Wolves.
Should be the Timberwolves.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
He would be such a perfect fit for them. They would be so good immediately.
They got smaller. They got rid of some of their bigs. They're a slighter team now. Gobert's still there, but they're more guard-oriented. Imagine if he could actually play the 4.
Yep.
Be great.
I mean, it would be perfect. That's what I'm hoping. I'm holding out hope that it's truly a little bit more basketball than it is life. Look, if it's life, then it's more than likely it's going to be Cleveland. Maybe Miami.
I was going to say, I have a feeling I know the club you don't want him to go to.
Which is what?
And that's the Culture.
Yeah, no, they're annoying.
Would it just drive you up a wall?
Yeah, I would hate it. Yeah, I would hate it. I don't think they would be as good either.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of shooting out there. I mean, depends on if he finds a shot. He only shot 31% from 3 this last year. So if that's the LeBron you're getting, Giannis, Bam, and LeBron, all 3 sub 31% 3-point shooters on the floor together, not great.
I'd like to see him go to the East where it's a little more open. You pointed out last week you thought the odds for the Eastern Conference 2027 winner a little screwed up. Latest update from William Hill: Knicks 320, Celtics 425. It's funny, I keep hearing people say the Celtics are going to suck, but they're second on the board in the East.
Okay.
Sixers are 8. I know where you're going. Pistons are 850. Raptors are 9. Got to drop them down. Kawhi. Heat right now are 9-1. Cavaliers are plus 950. I mean, that's pretty cool. That's a lot of balance there. And if imagine if Halliburton comes back healthy, Pacers probably are not 16-1.
Or with the news today, what if the Clippers find out that Kawhi's suspended for a year, and all of a sudden the Raptors don't want him? Now all of a sudden the Raptors are just the Raptors from a year ago, and the East becomes a little bit better for you to maybe make a run in. So to your point about joining the East, you could do that and join any one of these teams. And I would disagree. I'm with you. I don't think the Celtics are going to suck. I don't think they're the second best team in the Eastern Conference is currently constructed. And I think the pricing there is much about what you have done as a franchise as opposed to how you're actually being rated, especially if Kawhi's in that conference.
I haven't really started to track the 2028 NBA draft. It's enough to kind of keep up with what we just saw and watch these guys at the NBA Summer League. But in 2028, a guy who is considered a candidate is a dude named Nikola Costa Rica, I think is how you say his name.
Nice.
It's probably not. He's Serbian, so I'm sure their pronunciation
probably
well.
Costa Rica.
He's a 6'8 wing. He's 17. As I said, Serbian. Just dropped 37 on Team USA in the FIBA Under-17 World Cup. He is going to play college basketball. He picked UCLA. Now, on one hand, all you people who kept saying UCLA has no money, everyone's got money if their donors are fired up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's cool that he's going to be on the West Coast. Big Ten, but whatever. But Mick Cronin's UCLA team, that is a really interesting choice.
Will Mick be there?
Well, wow, that's a good point. Can he pull what he did last year where he's embarrassing himself by arguing with reporters?
Yeah.
And from, I don't know who this guy's handlers are, Mick Cronin?
Right. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know much about his game, so maybe there's something there that fits with what he likes to do. But it is pretty good. It's actually pretty good, though, that we're going to see him.
Could it be
he could just stay overseas?
All about money?
Yeah.
I mean, really? Because his other choices were Kentucky and Michigan. How did they lose out if it was about money?
I mean, I think UCLA's got a lot of money.
Boy, Michigan's kind of hard to go to right now.
Yep.
Because I don't know if the interim Mike Boynton is going to be the full-time. I don't know if Kentucky's going to have a new coach 2 years from now either.
I mean, that's probably part of the logic, isn't it?
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, Pope seemed like he was going to be untouchable for a year, and all of a sudden that fell apart.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, I mean, Michigan could be really upset about what happens this last year. Dusty May kind of, and that's the tough part about the cycle, because the NBA, they go through their hiring cycle a little late, but it's kind of tough to make that leap, and you kind of leave Michigan in the dust like that.
Summer League is started. We've got 3 games in the book. We got 7-game slate today here at the Thomas and Mack. It goes all the way through the 19th. You can get your tickets at UNLVtickets.com. On the way back, we'll get to a little update on Chennedy Carter and the Aces and that weird waving of a player who was averaging just over 13 points a game.
Cofield and Company presents Grab Bag on ESPN Las Vegas.
Stick your hand in there, Dave.
So if you go up to ESPN Las Vegas on Twitter, Brandy Flores, who was on with us earlier, she was covering the Becky Hammon availability. That's what's going down in Portland. And, a big story in the WNBA was the Aces firing, basically, dumping Chennedy Carter, who was averaging about 13 points a game. Her minutes had been sporadic, but, they need her as a scoring option, and then they cut her the other day. And so there's a lot of questions about Carter, and she's got a very controversial history. We were told that PR stepped in at the beginning of the presser and said, no questions about Chennedy Carter. We're just going to stick to basketball. Like, this is basketball. As Brandy wrote the tweet here, Aces head coach Becky Hammon would not say why the team released Chennedy Carter, but gave insight on what kind of players she wants on her roster to win another championship. Brandy asked that question. Kudos to Brandy. That's a really sneaky way to allow the coach to basically say, I don't want Chennedy Carter. Here's all the qualities. Now, why do you think they said, we're not going to comment on Chennedy Carter? Because now I have to speculate. Because if you won't answer it,
I would assume that means that there are some questions behind the illness. Was it a suspension? Was there an act behind the scenes? An incident that had occurred in some form or fashion?
Bingo.
That you don't want to tell us about?
Is there some legal action pending? Mm-hmm. Was there an HR issue? That's what I got to run to. If you won't answer it, because it can't just be about basketball. Because if we're just talking about Chennedy Carter, we already saw details, according to the USA Today reporter, about, not being cooperative behind the scenes, not playing defense, going to social media and complaining about playing time. You could talk about all of that. And here's the other thing, not to be unfair to the Aces, but they have had HR issues in the past, so maybe they're extra careful now, right? You had De'Erica Hamby and that whole thing. Maybe they're extra careful now. They're like, hey, we got a lawyer up here because we don't know. Maybe a player on the team has pending action against Chennedy Carter. Maybe Chennedy Carter said, I'm going to sue you, Mm-hmm. So I don't know. That's where I'll run with it. Because I don't really see any other reason why you wouldn't, unless it's just part of their formula, which is we don't air dirty laundry. We're not going to add to the story. We didn't tell you about it for 6 weeks, so we're having problems with her. We're not going to tell you anything else.
But you did. That's the thing is, I don't know if it's you do more damage, but you did tell us you were having problems because of the way that you handled it this whole time. And then when you don't address it, you just leave it up to speculation, and there's reporting out there, as you mentioned. So,
and by the way,
you get ahead of the message.
Callie at USA Today didn't make up the story. I'm sure she was given a lot of details by folks with the Aces.
Yeah. So I don't. I never really get why you don't just address and just give us something.
Back in the bag.
Stick your hand in there, Dave.
So as I look out the Strip View Pavilion doors here to the south, I see Mandalay Bay, and I can still see those 2 giant stacks up there, whatever you want to call them, pillars. That was going to be across the street a Ferris wheel before we had the high roller. Mm-hmm. So apparently that's where that Diamond Arena wants to be. By the way, there's a poster of the Diamond Arena. I don't know if they have reps here. Maybe we'll grab them another day. But that's that arena. It's one of about 7 arenas that they talked about. Fully funded, going to have an easy pathway underground to the Executive Airport, which is right there. The location is pretty intriguing. The cool thing about that corner is if you're going down behind where the baseball stadium is and where the Trop used to be, you can actually get a pretty good look. Now, the doors were open today because a lot of the workers were leaving, and I was driving by it. The back of the stadium, which I think would be home plate, because then as you look out, the outfield is towards New York. They've gotten a lot done. It's pretty neat. But that would be kind of a cool stadium district. I just don't know if the Las Vegas Jacks, I don't even know how that would work. If they would have any interest in this project, if they've got their own ideas on a project. This is all completely fascinating.
I'm with you. I want to hear more details. I am partial to the very south location, but as you guys have mentioned, you want foot traffic, you want the Strip.
Well, you want the Star Arena.
Yes.
Down at Star and 15 and Henry Boulevard, south of the South Point.
That's right. because I'm a selfish local. That's what I want. I want to be able to go out there. I've always been intrigued by that area.
But you don't live close to there? But it's not any more convenient?
Yeah, it'd be a little bit more convenient. Ingress, egress. But that location is pretty interesting.
Las Vegas Jacks, yay or nay? Because I guess the name was the big... I just never...
Here's what
that didn't hit me.
I just got to get this out. It's not going to be gambling related. You all need to stop. It's not going to be gambling related.
It's just a brand for now. Placeholder.